Hey, John.
Hi, how are you doing?
I don't
Hi
know.
guys. Wow, we get to actually see you guys in a better image today.
I know we can actually see you today. Look
Yeah,
beautiful, everyone. I don't know if they can hear us though.
I'm not sure. Oh no, I think the internet quality is gonna be way better today, actually. Like I feel it already.
I hope so. We have to manifest that.
Right. You're still in Louisiana, right? I see the background is the same. Yeah.
Yeah,
How was the wedding?
it was good. It was good. But my puppy had to go to surgery yesterday, so we may be home for 2 weeks or a few more days. We haven't decided. Um,
Oh no.
Yeah, can you hear us?
oh, they can hear us. Hi. Yeah.
Hey, sorry. I found the right speaker.
What happened?
She had, I don't know, it's like a umbilical hernia that they had to
Okay.
um so we had to give her to surgery. She has a little cone on her head.
Oh no, not the cone.
Shame.
Oh,
So but she
is she sleeping next to you or?
is, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. So we'll see.
hope she feels better soon.
Same. Hi, Aziza.
Hi, Hannah. Hi, girls.
How did everyone feel about the homework? It was okay. That was my like it was nice. Like I wanted like and I didn't want to dive with the research and like enjoy it. And I was looking at things actually like a couple of abbreviations. Yeah, you guys are gonna make us go find like yeah. Yeah, I just got the other day, I'm like, and there's a lot of they didn't find them. And it's some of the research and it's very complicated. You kind of covered most of the question that we like went through yesterday. Yeah. Some of the long abbreviations. What is that? Yeah, we have to think about. Yeah. Yeah. I have to begin when more people get here, but since Janine was like so great and open book, did anyone connect with her on socials? No, yeah, because I wanted to actually, I wanted to ask for like straight up her contact and email and everything. Yeah, yeah, it was it, but it's also be like, I'm not this amazing manager. Let me go find her. Yes, and be like, no, you have to find her. Oh, yeah. I'm like, I'm finding my goal. Yeah, everyone else is like, like anyone you meet here, like, feel like it should feel free to like just make them easy contact. Right, you know, has to. So if I were in your shoes, before anybody sends it to me, I would find her on Instagram, find her on any type of social media, and just send her a message and say, hey Janine, thank you. I did it last night. McQueen, so maybe to after like each guest goes, but at the end of the weekend, you can send like a recap that has like their links and stuff to find them. Then that's what you said. Yeah. I like how she's like been doing this for so long, like she doesn't sugarcoat it, and she's just very real. But sometimes I feel like people can be like a little fluffy, and but sometimes you have to like mix the fluffy with like reality. Yeah. She's very patient with our question because we have yes, and with the Wi-Fi. You were patient with But today should be better. We're hardwired, so. Here we go. Today. So we have two. We have two A&Rs. If I have a marker, should I write their names down? Is there a Joel? Should I put on Joel's? Well, it is. It's supposed to be the author and publishing is completed. And these, the first thing.
Hey Hannah, I have a question for you. I don't know if we can talk, but I'm gonna ask. So, you know how we're supposed to submit like the homework? I'm noticing that some people are also like submitting the worksheets and the in-class activities. Like, are we only to submit the homework or everything?
So the homework is the only thing that's required. Because
Okay,
we're supposed to get to the in-class activities during the class.
right,
So
if
if we
there's
don't
time.
during the class, then no worries. But if you'd like to submit it, we'd love to see it. Um, so it's the other
Okay,
items are optional, but the homework is the only one that's mandatory.
got it. Thank you.
Anything with wireless?
Okay. I'll give it like 4 more minutes. Sorry, I don't know.
Noha, did you get inside?
Hi, Hannah. Thank you. Yeah, I just went inside now. I'm
Oh,
just searching for them.
okay, great.
Thank you. Do you know which room they're in?
It's room 215.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Martina, Leal, Hala.
Hello.
How are you feeling today, Hala?
Temperature is down. I'm feeling much better. Just I'm gonna stay on the medication to make sure that all is well.
Yeah.
How's everyone?
Hey, how's everyone?
Hey. We should have better Wi-Fi today. So fingers crossed. You guys were troopers yesterday.
Okay, everyone, we're about to get started. Okay. Today already. Get settled, let's get started. We have a lot to go through today. Oh, thank you. We're running on. Thank you. We're gonna go over a little bit of what we didn't get to yesterday and last one, but yesterday was incredible. What are like some reflections, any feedback? What did anybody go home and think about? If anyone feels like sharing. And maybe just pass the mic, about the mic going on. It's on? Okay, yeah. I felt like my perspective opened up and possibilities, like more possibilities opened up. And after we talked to Janine, I felt like, oh, I'm limiting myself. And there's more people I can reach out. I don't have to complicate everything. It's a lot simpler than it is. Yeah. And thank you for that. Of course, that's one of the biggest things to learn early on, that the worst that someone can say is no, and that's not a reflection of you. It's just them saying no. So I'm always a big fan of reaching out to people, because you never know, like for one person that could change what you're doing. And if people in the chat, feel free to share any reflections or feedback that you had from yesterday as well. I really gained a lot of clarity from yesterday. I walked in not knowing the information that I got yesterday, and that's feeling like a great privilege as a student artist, because you don't get that kind of information from this, having things your own. Like you get so lost and you think that you need to learn everything on your own, and sometimes you just use that with guidance in order to gain some clarity. And I think that's what yesterday really did to me. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? We can hop right into it. How did everyone find the homework? Any challenges, any questions? It was interesting. Clarifications. If you have questions, let me know. Okay. Well, yesterday we basically went through a business synopsis of just the basics of copyright, the basics of building your team, and what that looks like, and we'll go more in depth with that today. So we left off yesterday talking about the different avenues in which you can release your music as an artist. One of them is a distributor. So this could be anything such as, I know Empire is here, I believe someone's on Empire here. This could be TuneCore, which is a way for you to upload your music. And basically everything a distributor does, they just get your music to all the digital service providers. So that's called a DSP. So that is your Spotify, Apple Music, Shandami, which is here, YouTube Music, SoundCloud. They aggregate, they create aggregation systems, all of those, and they just push them into that. Is anyone signed or have a distribution deal? So in your words, how does your distribution deal work? Yes. We signed a contract like a few months ago. We signed a contract like 4 months ago, and the deal was that they would be closing my music on the first part, and then after using and all of that. Usually the extent for a one time that I send them my music per year, so they plan it, marketing plan for it, which because on site and say this that the one of my song that year get more streaming. It has been doing well, and they're good so far. The person that I deal with, the person that I'm in contact with is a
really good guy and always awake, like if I'm in the morning. Yeah. This is a great thing to have around. It's really present while you're releasing your music. And but yeah, at the beginning, like the contract that we sent me, somehow it was a bit complicated. Like we sent me like a lot of people to sign and a lot of details concerning the taxes and all of that that I really had no idea. And I really wanted to release my music, so I just kept signing everything. So I'm not really sure about what I signed. But I have to release my music. So
Yeah. You'll probably see once you start seeing income in your, because they probably have an interface where you can go in and see all your analytics. It'll tell you, because distributors will either take a fee or they take a percentage of your sales. So
yeah, we didn't agree on any fees that we would take from me, but what I know that's not expecting too much profit in the beginning, that was really fun. But each month they tell me like what happened with the each
like the analytics,
but I don't know when exactly should I start getting paid, when I get how many fees
So royalties, depending on the deal with your distributor, they could pay you once a month, they could pay you every 3 months, or they could pay you once a year. Most distributors and labels only like to pay like twice a year, just because it's hard to collect all the information, and so depending on what's in your deal will determine when you get paid.
I don't know,
You have to walk you through your deal.
So yeah, we started releasing music like a little over a year ago, and at first it was like distributed. I really enjoyed the experience because I got really confident in my sister, it's a good artist now. And we started putting music out there. We haven't even had like a few singles, and we started seeing the first year we $20. We paid like $35 for the
Sorry,
we got $20 back. I was like, great. And then I went into this project with Empire, and I'm confused because I feel like how it was with this weekend, it's like I would upload whenever I want, and the song is live everywhere in 2 hours, 3 hours tops. And with Empire, it's like 2 days prior, there's emails for Sunday, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, maybe it's gonna sound dumb, but I feel like I enjoyed the DistroKid experience a whole lot better. I felt like I was in charge of when to release, I was in charge of my own album art, and I saw the money as well, which is even if it's small start, I felt like it's the confidential, right?
yeah.
And I know that when you're signed to or when you do a project with a bigger company like Empire or we are all other like I don't know to call them, but like these other companies, I was told like this is more professional, and you get on the playlist and they do pitch for I don't know what, but actually in terms of plays, I got a lot better plays on DistroKid, but that also was because I would not fall asleep without cold DMing my music to everybody that would give it any time of day. I would literally always be like banned on Instagram, Facebook, continuously DMing people that don't know me and don't know my music. I'm like, you might. I saw her shoes and like maybe she was like, and but then when I got with them, I want to hands off because I want to see what their work is. So yeah, now I'm kind of confused. I feel like being approached by companies like Empire, being approached by companies like the team, I feel like I still don't have any clue what is it that they actually do. For me, especially, I feel like that I'm starting out artists, and I feel like artists are still small and have not been viral yet. I just stop.
Or you could get more out of that like boutique mini distributor feeling. Like DistroKid, you could probably reach out and contact someone quickly if you needed to. But Empire has such a massive roster that they're probably only like the larger distributor is probably only going to pay attention if something is happening, and then they're like, how do we throw fuel on this fire? So I would like it. And what's your distributor? And Empire? So it's just like you guys have completely different relationships. You have a direct connection with Empire?
Actually, it was to a representative.
Okay, so, because it's also knowing the person that's inside the distributor or inside the label. Because if you have someone on the inside, they're gonna like raise the alarm when you have a release, they're gonna tell everybody to get excited. When you kind of just sign up and don't know anyone, no one knows you. So it's definitely like the key to have that like personal relationship with whoever is signing you to the label or distributor.
Yeah, in a way, it got me excited because like, oh, I can't wait to rock my life. I will be kind of, let me go into my old ways and doing everything myself. I love to get it that way.
But maybe try to find a contact at Empire or go back to DistroKid and deepen that relationship.
Even relationship with this woman.
Yeah.
So I will go back to this. I still have this, I'm not really that well on it.
But that's the great thing too about a distributor is that it's non-exclusive. So you can jump around and go to different ones and test the waters and see who does the best for you. Okay, does anyone know what a music publisher does? And feel free to chat or type in the chat too, that I can't see it, but I'm going to be interactive. So a music publisher, they collect their royalties for anything on the publishing side. So
You're going to lab, tell me to wear my headphones.
Anything on the publishing side, but also help set up sessions for you. So if you get signed to a publisher, it's our goal to set you up with as many writers and producers as possible, so you have releases to put out. Some examples are Sony Music Publishing, Universal Music Publishing, Warner Chappell Publishing, Cobalt, and Wixom are the biggest.
I wanted to ask her about the note that was written, like, PRO collects and distributes while.
Yes. So the PR, so anything, the PR is the one that actually goes out and collects the money.
Yeah.
So, for the publishers, for songwriters, they go out and actually collect anything when it's played and they aggregate the money into an account.
It just.
Okay. Sorry, Hannah, I think you shared your screen. It's like it was on my screen, one second. And so if you're not signed to a publisher, you can register yourself as your own publisher. So if you were Blue Woman Music as the artist, it could be Blue Woman Publishing and sign yourself up as a publisher for no fee, so you're still connecting that publishing money as well. And then DSPs, digital streaming platforms. So this is an online service which your music gets aggregated to. So again, Spotify, Apple, Amnami, SoundCloud, they offer playlists like for personalized recommendations. So if somebody's listening to something that's similar to your music, like you can get into the algorithm and get your music fed to more people. And it's definitely very heavily algorithm based. You can also pay for ads if you want. Like I have artists that set up entire ad campaigns on Spotify, on YouTube, on SoundCloud to get your music to a wider audience. A&R. Now we're going to get into the different parts of your team. Does anyone know what A&R stands for? Very good. Does anyone know what that means?
That's like scouting talent.
Yes. So A&R is kind of like the front line into finding the talent. Traditionally, back in the day, A&Rs would go to concerts, they would go to clubs, open mics, and look for talent that nobody's seen. Now it's like you get on the internet, you see what's trending, and you go chase after that. But their main job as an artist is to kind of craft your narrative and your story sonically. So they also connect you with writers, producers, and help you find like your sound as an artist. Another part of your team could be your live agent or your booking agent. So they will be responsible for getting you shows, and they will take a commission or a fee from the shows that they got you. So depending on you know, the following you have in certain regions, or, if there are artists who are looking for developing new acts who are more bigger artists but want a new act to take on tour, your agent can be really important in terms of getting you that goal. For example, Rosalind and Ed Sheeran had the same agent, and so when Ed Sheeran went on tour and he was looking for a new talent that he wanted to take out on the road, he went through the list and he picked Rosa. So knowing who else your agent represents can be very important. Publicist or marketing manager? Has anyone ever worked with a publicist or a marketing person? You worked, so you've done it yourself. So your publicist and your marketing manager are responsible for getting like the marketing and the strategy behind your release. So you have this great music, you want to release it, but what's the plan to gain followers, to gain listeners? Like, what are the goals behind releasing this music? Like, you can just release music to release music, but you want to put like certain metrics and goals behind it to make sure you're getting some type of. So your publicist or your marketing manager, they'll typically, we call this a rollout. And so they'll put together a marketing plan that could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks or 6 weeks to 8 weeks, depending on how long you want the business to be. Most major artists have like a 3-month rollout. So they'll market, they'll do meetings, they'll take interviews up to 3 months before the release comes out.
That's before the release.
And so in that period, you're pushing stuff out on your socials, you could be doing interviews, any type of press, just anything toward marketing and promoting your release and making sure you give people enough time. I know, for example, if you're doing anything like in print or magazine, they often need like a couple months before they can even write your article. Radio promotion companies. So. So a radio company, if your song is doing well, you're seeing it hit some of like maybe the viral charts, or you see the numbers are trending up, you could be like, well, I'm gonna take my song to radio and see what happens. There are companies and agents who you can't pay to play, is what we call it. I think there's a little feedback on your mic. Okay. So we call that pay to play. So you can pay them to get your music on the radio, and it depends on their fee, and it's not guaranteed. They're just telling you they're going to reach out to all these radio stations and try to get your music played. And then we have sync and licensing partners. So these are people who go out and actively try to get your music synced into ads, commercials, TV, film, which is a way to make money outside of releasing music. And often you see that money, that return a lot quicker. So most often pay you in advance upfront on the publishing side and the master side. So you get 2 checks. It can be fairly lucrative. Like if you get a big ad with like Coca-Cola or a big brand, that's a pretty decent check. But it's definitely like a niche business where you have to have someone kind of actively looking for those opportunities for you. And then homework. Did anyone have questions on the homework? Or needed anything to be explained a little bit further? Copyrights, deals, labels, and the intro to A&R. So this is going to be a lot of information. The goal is to just take it all in, go back and look through it at your own leisure and figure out what's most important to where you're at now. Because it is a lot to really sit down and go through. So as an artist, you're releasing music, you want to make sure you get paid. You want to make sure you have ownership of your content, and you want to make sure you understand where the revenue should be coming in. So copyright is ownership of the song. As soon as you write a song, it's yours. There are certain ways to register it, like through your publisher, through your PRO, but as soon as you write it, it belongs to you. When a songwriter assigns the rights of the song to a publisher, whoever owns the publishing of the song gets to decide who can record it. So if you're the publisher, you're going to decide that you record it. But for example, if you're assigned to a publishing deal and you're writing for other people, they can send your songs to other people to record and you still collect money from them. The master side is the physical, or not physical, but this actual sound recording. So publishing is the actual lyrics and the composition, and master is the sound recording. So whoever owns the master recordings will earn royalties when the song is played or reproduced on radio, streaming, or downloads. Distribution deal, which we already went through. Production deal. So this is, you find a producer and you guys work really well together, and maybe you don't have the money to pay them up front, and so you come to what's called a production deal. So that's them working with you in exchange for collecting money in the future. Or if you do get a deal, them getting a chunk of that money in the future. These you have to be careful with because producers can't ask for a lot, especially when they're like, I'm working for free up front, like I want a lot on the back end. But if you find the right producer and you feel like it's a vibe, it's definitely worth doing. Does anyone have like any producers that they, yes?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is what's the reason presented to create an artist in the copyright which goes and the producer wants to create the music? Or the music and mix and master, what's the percentage between both of them?
So typically a producer can get anywhere, and depending on how much they contribute and how big of a name they are, it's anywhere from 3% up to 6% of the song is the standard. And then for mixing and mastering, they don't traditionally get a percentage, like you typically pay them a little fee, but if you can't, I've seen people offer up to 1% each of them.
How much?
1%?
1%? I give them 50%.
So your mixer and master?
Yes.
Okay.
Next one is the master, like the whole technical part, and I do the variety and both and singing, and they 50-50.
Oh, wait, are you saying of the publishing or of the master?
The whole volume.
Of the whole song, so you can give them 50% of the publishing because they contributed to the composition, but technically you own the master.
I own it because like how much money, like how percentage, like in the picture, like the song has a revenue, what you can do fun. Like here, what do you think about like 30?
Is that probably because, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that could be also because like, if you did have a budget, like producer advances can be a lot, so producers can charge anywhere in the US from a small producer might charge $5,000, a big producer might charge $50,000. And then they get a smaller royalty going forward, so they could get a $50,000 advance and then a 3% royalty. But maybe since there's no money up front, they're asking for a larger part of the song. But I feel like there's a way you can figure that out too. Like if the song does make a certain amount of money, then your royalty goes back down.
So I have another question.
Yes.
There's a major issue with commitment because they're not getting paid, so sometimes they're like too late. Yeah.
I was talking with another artist about this earlier, like especially when you don't really have a lot of income coming in, you have to find producers that see the vision, that are okay, I'm gonna spend 3 months working with this artist. I know there's nothing up front, but I see this vision and I can make them come to life. So it's all about finding, I think, yeah, they have to care. Like finding that targeted, like what are some dream producers you would want to work with? Like, I love it.
She's not taking people like what? Right, I don't think for his sister really good, but James can do anything.
But I would take from that, if you love Phineas's production, I'm sure Phineas talks about all the up and coming producers that he likes. Find out who Phineas is talking about and figure out how to get them to pay attention. So I feel like for your producer, you really have to figure out who's gonna make your song, your music come to life and who's in it just as much as you are. Otherwise, people are just looking to collect the check. And that's not a bad thing if you have the budget to pay for it. But if you don't, you're always gonna be like, they're gonna be the ones in control.
So what's the balance, right? What if I add to, sometimes I can work by, sometimes I work the best by working on your own, but they take a lot of time to do it. So what do I do? What do I add to music?
I think going into it before you start, tell them what your timeline is. So even map out, give them a detailed note of this is when it needs to be done, this is why, and this is when I expect this to be turned in. And try to keep them on that timeline and deadline.
She thinks we should give them earlier deadline and make it like be so critical that it's not only for that time, but you have like a month and you have
Yeah.
a month to do it. It's so much easier. Like I tried that and it works so good.
I give fake deadlines too.
The deadline is tough, it's not working, and it works out really well.
Yes, buffer the time, exactly, and give people.
There's like.
Yes,
One put out with me and we put out in song and I went to record my vocals. And after that, we didn't send me the music, we put me in the track. And then suddenly I found the track on social media without my name.
did he put it on Instagram or where?
Everywhere.
So I think you can file a claim if you go in, you could say this is not copyrighted.
Yeah. Posted with a record company and international, I don't remember the name. And they said that their name, you don't have enough followers or Spotify, so we don't share your production.
So you should contact that record company because he's just saying that, but if the record company knows he doesn't have the rights and it's a big company, they won't go for it because that could be a lawsuit. So not false. I would contact everything that you saw the music on and reach out to them and let them know that this was recorded, like without your permission.
Yeah.
So reach out to everyone that you see posted, like the label. You can file a claim on Spotify and just say this was released without my approval. And they should pull it down. It might take a little bit of time, but they should pull it down. You should tell them you're gonna do that beforehand too, because that might change. Because sometimes people think you don't know what's going on, but if you're like, hey, I'm gonna tell the label that you recorded this without my permission, it might change how he acts. Maybe we circulate Aya, maybe we circulate both mics. So one can be over there and then one can be over here.
Nikisha, you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Would it be possible to repeat the first part of the question so that the people on Zoom can hear what the question is whenever you answer?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So, I do think so. So, if someone came up and how do I complete like songs? And then when the song is published, I get 3% of the royalties of the whole, or just
So the question is, if I'm a producer, how do I get paid from actually working with writers and artists? So there could be an advance and you guys decide how much you want to take. But the advance is just a loan, so remember that. So when your royalty is a way to pay back that loan. So say you got an advance of $500 and you had a 3% royalty, you wouldn't start seeing that 3% of the total income until you pay back the $500. But it also might work a little differently here, because for Mahmoud, sometimes it's just a flat fee, but traditionally, the advances are just a loan.
So I have to pay him back once I get the royalties?
So when the first money comes in, that the first 500 that comes back for your 3% will go to pay back that loan, and then you'll start seeing more money after that 500 is paid back. It's a little complicated. And then we'll do one more question and then move on to, yes. Sorry? Why don't they just deduct the advance from the?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't they just deduct it from the royalty instead of just like doing that?
So it is deducted from the royalties, but in my mind, it still works like a loan. Like you're getting money that you have to pay back before you get more money.
Then, so what happens if you're on a project that did not, get all that amount of money, so you have to do more music, more projects, what happens?
So for the Zoom people, the question is, what happens if the song doesn't earn enough money? Nobody gets royalties.
Nobody gets royalties.
Nobody.
What happens to the loan that?
Whenever, no, you don't have to pay, you only have to pay it back if the money comes in. So as a producer, like if you took a $500 advance and the song never made any money, it's
I
just,
still owe them the $500.
you don't owe them, it's yours.
No, I don't owe them.
Yeah, you don't owe them. It's just stuck, it's just stuck on the artist. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to splits. So splits are very important, especially when you're working with other writers and producers, knowing what percentage you're going to take, even before you really get into it, like having that in your mind already. And then once the song is done, making sure you start negotiating the splits right away, because people forget, people magically show up in the room, somebody's cousin ended up being a writer and you're like, they weren't even there. So just after you finish the song, just making sure you're having that conversation about or splits right away. And this is typically something too, if you did have a manager, you would say the session's done and they'd be like, all right, what do you think the splits are, or what should the splits be? And they would go in immediately and start negotiating. And then how a sync licensing deal works. So this can be, it sounds a little complicated, but if you get a song that you've written, you own the master, is in a commercial for Coca-Cola. You'll get paid on the master side, so the sound recording side, but also all the songwriters will get paid on the publishing side. And so it's two streams, the two ways of collecting revenue. Questions?
Yes, actually about previous rate.
Yes.
I have a situation that I was offered 80% of my revenue to someone that is gonna film my music video, and he's gonna take 80% from the revenue and he's gonna work for the song. Is that fair? 80% from my
80%?
No, he gets 80.
80? He gets 80? No. It should be other way, like he should still maybe get. So that's kind of like, it's one of those things where it's kind of like a gray area, because like people that do marketing and shoot video don't typically get percentages. But if he wants to work with you because he believes in you, then maybe you give him a small 5%. Otherwise, what would it cost if you hired him? What would that cost be?
A lot.
What's a lot?
For the video, around like 20K, which I don't have, and for marketing, I don't know, to be honest. But it's beyond my budget, so.
I think he's still asking for too much.
Yeah.
It's still a lot.
Can I just
I'm dying to say something. Can you guys hear me?
also depends on what you're shooting. Because like if you have something like if your vision is like requiring like multiple locations, a lot of equipment and all that, then that's a reasonable price because you're renting stuff, you're renting locations and all that. However, if you're doing just like a small video that like let's say just one location and just like a camera and stuff, then it shouldn't really take that much because he does not need that much out of the budget. Does that make sense? Also keep in mind if it's like really popular and stuff, he can charge for his brand. But if he's just an average, then definitely don't go for the deal. Because yeah, again, it all depends on what your vision is and what you're shooting.
I would also think back too, like, okay, you're aiming to work with this person that charges 15K. Maybe he's not where you should be working right now. Like maybe you scale it back. I've seen, this sounds cliche, but I've seen plenty of artists shoot a great video on their own or with their friend or with an iPhone. Like figure out a way to still get that like high level aesthetic, but just DIY. Like there's plenty of great resources and tools you could use where you're spending. I've seen artists shoot videos with $1,000, with $500 and get a great video. You really just need 3 different shots and then you just chop yourself up in 3 different ways. Like that's what I call like the basic way to get a great video. 3 different locations, 3 different outfits, and you doing your song.
Thank you.
Nikisha,
Yes.
we have a question from Hala on Zoom as well.
Can you read it for me, Hannah?
Can I say it? Can
Oh,
you
yes,
guys hear me? Yeah, perfect. So I just wanted to give you insight about something that happens in our region. I'll be very quick. So I want to say something. I know that 80% is a red flag. It definitely is. But music videos that happen here in Egypt or in the MENA region, a lot, and I have seen a lot of contracts. Some of them are even 50%. So why is that? It's because some artists, all they need is an opportunity of a good visual. And by visual, I mean like a music video or 15 pieces of content on TikTok and so on. So what is the cost of that? The cost of that can sometimes come up to 200K of Egyptian pounds or $500,000 Egyptian pounds, which is around $4,000, $5,000. I'm not sure if my if the calculation is correct, but let's just say it's $4,000, $5,000 to make that video. So what happens is our revenue or the royalties from publishing and from the DSPs and everything, they never, like one song never reaches that when you're a tier B or a tier C artist. So the reason why the percentage is so big as a 50% is because actually this guy that's going to invest all that money in you and make you have this visual that enhances your brand identity and all of that, he is never actually getting that money because these royalties will never come unless you make 24 million views or 50 million views, which is very rare. So actually, I would like, I don't know what you think after knowing this information, but I would say it's a good deal because you're not losing anything. You're giving him royalties that we're not sure that they're gonna happen or not. And if it happens, you're not losing because you've actually gained the fame and the content and you haven't paid a penny. So I want to know your thoughts about that. I'm trying to make it brief. There's a lot of more details, of course, but I think you can kind of grasp on what I'm trying to say here.
I can grasp what you say. I think I come from a viewpoint and that and again, not knowing how it works exactly in the region, that the artist should have the majority ownership in everything that they do. And granted, if someone's going to give their services and create a beautiful visual for you, like for this videographer, have you seen his prior work?
Yeah.
Are you in love with it, head over heels?
It's not just that, it's the marketing, he knows how to do it, the marketing, he's certainly going to like make this song like it's a hit song, he knows the audio is amazing, but he knows how to take that audio and just like slow it up and stuff to people. So he knows how to do that. It's also worth it to give him like 80% of my money.
I mean, for me, 80 sounds too high. Like maybe if you went back and say it's 50, like 50-50 because you believe that he can get it to the next level and you don't have that income. But I always believe the artist should have a bigger stake in what they do because it's your work. Yes.
So like I'm part of a distribution company, right? They should have huge sum of money like she only division, right? And then our contract, like our contract is so they get 80% and I get 20% until they get their money that they pay, and then it goes back to 80 for me.
Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's very common too, where the person will get the bigger percentage until you pay it back. But because he's not getting anything up front, it just seems like a lot to me. But I would always try to negotiate, like go back and say, how about we do 50-50 if you really want to work with him. Yeah, so we'll do one more and then we'll go back to the presentation.
I have a question about the licensing thing.
Yes.
So I'm a songwriter and I wrote a song for an artist who's signed to Universal. And that song is getting like a lot of streams. And I took like an advance money of like $500 or something.
They're signed to Universal Music, like the label or the publisher?
Both.
Both, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I only got that money and then like the streams kept getting higher. They didn't even like offer getting money off of publishing or masters or all that stuff. So I just want to ask what should be the deal? Is it that flat fee or like flat fee and a part of the royalties and everything as a songwriter for that song?
Okay, so the question is, if you do write for someone, do you take a flat fee publishing or an advance in publishing? I would do both because like when you wrote the song, you probably didn't know it would get the same placement. So you always want to leave the opportunity for you to make continual revenue, especially if you're writing with an artist that's signed to a major deal, because there's a whole machine there, pitching, working, marketing, like they have a whole squad in there to do everything for them. So even if it means taking a smaller advance to make sure you get publishing, I would do that.
A following question, can I like propose like a new deal after taking the fee?
You can, but they'll probably say no because they got your publishing, which is the unfortunate situation. Like most they're happy if you don't want the publishing because it's more for the artist and the producer to split.
And what's the percent for people?
So it depends on how much you write and how many people are in the room. For the song that you wrote on, how many people were in the room or how many writers were on there? Oh, okay. You should have got a lot of publishing. Yeah.
They wrote like 3 bars. The singer itself, she wrote like 3 bars. She did it in like 3 bars.
Yeah. So typically, it is customary to where if you do write for a bigger artist and they might not do a lot, they still get a little bit of publishing. So it could be 10%, 15%, but the song, like the people that actually composed and wrote the song will get the majority of it. So, in a different situation, you probably could have gotten like 50s, maybe even more, depending on how big the artist is.
Yeah.
Because they're always going to push back more for the artist if it's a big name.
I have another question as well.
Yes.
Okay, because like, so me and like 4 other girls, we didn't come together and like the guy that like made us like do the song together and just like figure out like producer kind of what we did kind of exactly. So like we got us on the song, right? And we did like a little Arabic song like all this stuff on it and stuff. And all of a sudden our song was on Need for Speed, the game, right? And like none of us got any royalties, none of us got nothing. Like, we just all of a sudden our song was on Need for Speed, right?
And you didn't sign anything?
Nothing. And like our names are not even like on the song, like nothing, like literally just like another religion. That we have no idea what to do, but at the same time we don't want to ruin our connection with the guy because we
Does he continue to get you more work?
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's always like, you know, hooking up with, you know, as long as we do much for that, but at the same time, it's like, we're making a lot of money off of it.
And there's a way to like, casually introduce it and just be like, hey, I hurt myself with Needs for Speed. Yes. Or just say- You could be like, is there anything I should sign? Because then that'll be like, oh, she knows what's going on. So there's a way to like step into it, but not be like accusatory and just be like, is there anything I should sign for this in order for it to be everywhere? And see what he says. Okay.
The song is produced by him and some other co-producers, and it's released as this platform. It's solely for them, and they're just voices on the track. Does that differ? Like,
It doesn't differ. So if you have your vocals on something, you're a part of the master recording. So they have to have you sign something. Because he doesn't own your voice, or he didn't have you sign anything to own the rights to your voice.
Like in the scenario where he doesn't, or like he refuses for some reason, what can she do to make sure that, like she's on like a piece of paper, like signing
So for the future or for this situation?
for this situation?
So for this situation, since you have a distributor, do you have anyone else on your team, or is it just? Because I would say contact Need for Speed, figure out how to contact.
Yeah, should I let like them or should I?
I think if you have like someone on your team who can contact them for you, because the only thing is like when you do file the claim, it can take time and you have to follow up and you just have to keep on it. But you would go directly to the source and be like, hey, this came out and it's my voice, but you don't have the rights to this. Or you don't have the rights to exploit this is the scary language. Okay, so our guest speakers are going to join in about 5 minutes before we get into A&R. We had an in-class activity, but you guys can research this on your own, just the different types of sync deals and a guide to getting sync deals. And then we'll go through an admin deal, which is like a very low lift deal. So you'll work in partnership with like a publishing administrator. And so they're not actually a publisher, they just go out and can collect your income for you. So they have the tools and the resources to go out and just collect your income. And in this case, you keep 100% of everything and they just get a small fee. No, because they don't register your songs, they don't get you sessions, they literally just go out there and collect your money. It can be very hard with all the different territories, figuring out the different ways to go in and register and make sure your money is coming in properly and also accurately, like making sure that all the DSPs are reporting your actual real income. So it's their job to kind of just triple check, quadruple check everything that's coming in. And then I would say that 10% of what you actually bring in is normal, but they also might do a flat fee. So 360 deal is the big kahuna. It's the deal when you sign, but typically it could be a major record label, it could be an independent record label, but they get a piece of everything that you do. Your likeness, so it's your music, it's your merchandise, it's your touring. It could be if you're an actor, also your acting. So anything that generates income for you, they'll get a percentage of it. Publishing deal, we went through that, but that's just when you're signed to a publisher, and they, connect you with other writers, creatives. You can't come with their advance, or they can sometimes pay you a monthly stipend, but again, that's a loan and you have to pay it back. Yes. You should have a lawyer if you can.
Okay, so there's a specific type of lawyer that does this, like, is it?
It's a entertainment lawyer, should know, like, if you hire an entertainment lawyer, they should know record deals, publishing deals, sync deals, any type of deal there is out there for an artist. And then also sometimes lawyers will work for a flat fee, or what's the fee? Everybody wants a percentage. So it depends on if you do have like the income to pay the lawyer, or you can guarantee them a percentage of the deal that you have coming in. So say you do have a publishing deal, you're gonna get like a small advance, and you can negotiate them getting a piece of that advance from them.
So if the contract, if someone gives me a contract, they went to a lawyer and they did it with the lawyer and they're offering it to me.
Yes, so definitely if somebody's sending you a contract, they work through it with the lawyer, and they're sending it to you for your lawyer to look at.
I have a question.
Yes.
So it's about loans. I have seen institutions here are giving money, but there is a trick because they first get the revenue, they get the revenue, they keep holding the high revenue until they get what they paid on the track. Is this safe for me as like I don't get that much of revenue or no revenue at all? Is it safe for me to do this first?
So the question is that if you sign to a distributor, they're paying themselves first before giving
Some
you.
people offer.
Yes, so that's very common. So it's a loan. So if you take an advance or take any money for any type of deal, you have to pay that back before you start seeing your percentage of the revenue.
But a lot of neighbors or distributors are very tricky. They look like they keep holding my revenue and telling me and like showing me like records that they haven't collected their revenue yet. Is that tricky? Should I not take loans at first?
Yeah, these loans, because I hope, right?
Yeah, I was saying it depends. Sometimes, having that upfront money helps you create and helps you live. So it's really like a personal choice. Like if you need the money, then, an advance can be very important to you, but just make sure you read the entire agreement to be like, okay, maybe I only have to pay back half the loan before you start giving me your revenue instead of all of it. Like there are different ways you can negotiate.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
I can say something that might help people. I can help with it, because I go for the same thing. So the team, it's one of the major distributors here. Yeah, they offered an upfront fee of £5,000, which was literally nothing, and it was forced at me to sign this contract. I didn't want the upfront fee. So they forced it on me, and I've been signed since the 31st of December, 2021. They lost the contract, and they're not letting me to break off the contract, because like they're saying that you're committed and all that stuff, and they're not giving me revenue or reports or anything, and I've been signed with them since that timing. And they're not letting me break off the contract, even though they don't even have a contract on hand, and they can't provide me a PDF form or anything that like who like it took £5,000, and I was signed for 5 years long.
So they lost the contract. That's a big red flag.
Yeah.
But you would probably have to find you would either have to know how to speak the language and be like, if you can't provide me this contract within 10 days, and there isn't a deal because there's no proof that there is a contract, or find like a lawyer.
I did already. They're not taking their hands off my YouTube. Like they're keeping.
So could you file a claim with YouTube and be like, this contract doesn't exist, and then that kind of forces them to have to show the contract.
That's not the thing that shows. Yeah, there are the managers on my channel, and they're like stuff there. You can't even click on them.
Can you reach out to YouTube directly, like find an email?
You can. I can.
You can, yeah. I would reach out to, there has to be like a claims at YouTube or some type of like email address you can reach out to and be like, I'm not in this deal, there's no contract, like, please help me sort this. And then they'll go to them and be like, show us that you have the rights to this.
Yeah,
and
if
either
they don't provide it, they take them off. Right?
Yeah.
they should, it might take some time, but they should remove them if they can't provide the contracts. Okay. And then let me.
Nikisha? Oh, can you hear us?
Yes, hi.
Brandon and Lee are on the Zoom, so welcome. And then we also had one question from Hala and Aziza.
Okay, let's hi Brandon and Lee.
Hi.
Let me get you guys.
Hi. Are we
Hi.
ready to sign in?
Can you guys see the classroom or you see me? You see me?
Yeah.
We see you.
See you.
Okay.
Hi,
We're gonna
everybody.
flip it so you can see the student.
There we go.
Okay. We're talking
Hi,
about
everyone.
Wow.
contracts. Everybody loves contracts. It's the fun
Oh,
part.
wow. So you're getting into the fun stuff before us.
Yes, so maybe some of the questions Brandon and Lee might be able to help answer. If not, we can get to it for them at the end. But we're super excited to have our guest speakers today, both A&R powerhouses in their own regard, but also have, you know, a record of also working together. Brandon, I actually started with as an assistant at Atlantic Records a long time ago. And I'll give a brief intro and then I'll let you guys give your intros as well, but he's worked himself up to SVP of A&R and the co-head of pop music. And Lee Dene has been someone who I've met in the recent years who is a champion for all things great. She's had an amazing career working with artists such as John Mayer, and also someone who's just always on the forefront of giving back to the next generation of creatives. So super excited to have them both. So Lee and Brandon, I'll let you two kick it off, and then if you just want to give a brief bio, and then we'll get into, we touched briefly on today what A&R actually is, and the components of record deals and all of that, and then, you know, we'll dive a bit more into what your actual day-to-day and your roles look like.
Good. You want to go first, Brenda?
Sure. Hi, Lee, my long lost friend.
I know. It's so nice to see you.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me and us. It's an absolute privilege to be speaking to you all today. Honestly, so fun and appreciate you having me. My name is Brandon Davis, as Nikisha said, and I am the co-head of Pop A&R and executive vice president of Atlantic Records. I'm based in Los Angeles, California. I have been with Atlantic for going on 13 years now. It's been my first and only job. I started in about 2010. My first job in the music business. I started as an assistant, as Nikisha said. So you know, we all started together over there as assistants at Atlantic, and rose up through the ranks, going from you know, rising from assistant to actually intern before assistant, from intern to assistant to junior A&R to A&R to vice president to senior vice president to executive vice president. You know, so it's been an amazing 13 years at the company, and you know, I've had the opportunity to work with, you know, some of the most iconic artists, you know, of our time, ranging from Lizzo to Charlie XCX to Fred again to Ava Max to Ed Sheeran. And in addition to that, I've also executive produced a lot of the soundtracks we put out. So everything from the Barbie soundtrack recently to The Greatest Showman and Birds of Prey. You know, so I've also delved into that world under the Atlantic umbrella as well. So that's just a little bit about myself. Lee, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. So I knew Brandon at the kind of the very beginning of your career. What a rock star.
I used to get Lee coffee.
You never did that. But this is also making me feel really old, because I was well into my career when I met Brandon, and worked actually was in publishing when we kind of met and knew each other. My start was much longer ago, and at a very different time in the business. My first job was in publishing, also as an assistant. Have you guys covered music publishing, Nikisha?
We're just getting into it. But
Okay. Okay, well, I won't. Yeah, well, I won't divert, because this is an A&R conversation, but I will certainly at least make note of, as you get into it, that an understanding of publishing is, you know, proved incredibly instrumental at every step in my career as an A&R person. But it's also such an important part of the business that continues to grow and show relevance in every area. It sort of impacts every area of what you do at any career position that you might have, job position that you might have. But I started as an assistant and worked my way up through the ranks. I was a scout at a company that is no longer in existence called MCA Records. It was my first A&R role. And then I was at Sony, at Epic Records and Columbia Records for a combination of a total of 15 years, which was really where I cut my teeth. And I got the job because they wanted an A&R person who actually had a publishing background to kind of help find songs and work with some of the artists and repertoire that didn't have that weren't fully sole songwriters. So early on in my career, my publishing background helped me in terms of knowing the writers, knowing the producers to to put with artists to make records, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth soon. But during my time at my formative years at Epic, my first 7 years, I did a lot of work internally. I always say I was like a jack of all trades A&R person, learned on the job, to be honest, because I hadn't really done it before. But learned how to work on soundtracks. I did compilation records. I did catalog development, signed and developed a few artists early on who did okay, but I had my first kind of breakthrough artist when I moved over to Columbia. I signed an artist named Sean Mullins, who was my first platinum record. He was a singer, kind of a roots singer-songwriter who had a really big kind of global pop hit. And through him, I met John Mayer and then worked with him for, the rest of my time at Columbia through a couple of his biggest records, and learned the job along with him, and also worked with artists like Train and Fight for Fighting and a singer-songwriter named Anna Nalick. Really just kind of grew up at that company. And then I moved on to at Warner when I met Brandon, moved back into publishing kind of at a little bit of a higher level, but also really got to work with some incredible pop songwriters like Claude Kelly, who's had hits like writing Party in the USA for Miley Cyrus and a couple of big hits, number ones for Britney Spears, and worked in the country space, worked with a songwriter named Priscilla Renee, who is now known as Money Long and has won Grammys last year. 20 plus year veteran, amazing songwriter. And then moved, did a couple of other things on the A&R side back at Sony, and then ended up at a company where I am now called 30 Tigers, where I'm the head of A&R of a very unique type of a label called, we're really like a label services company where we don't own masters. We sort of provide the same creative services. So my role is essentially the same in terms of the way I bring talent in and do some artist development, but the company business structure is very different, and it's part of kind of a growing sector in the independent side of the music industry. So and I'm sure you guys will talk about that, and maybe this will come into some of the deal conversations, but it's been really amazing. And I work now with artists, some heritage artists like Bruce Hornsby, Amos Lee. I have some new and developing artists named that I hope you'll hear about. I work with Corinne Bailey Ray, and it's just great. I get to do things at a kind of a broader spectrum on the independent sector today, but still utilizing like all the skills that I kind of have built up over the years. So I'm sure I missed a bunch of things in there because I've been doing this a long time, but that's the the broad strokes.
Amazing. So I'll kick it off with a few just initial questions to get the conversation going, and then we can open it up to questions from the students. So A&R has been one of those things that's kind of had to pivot with time and technology. How has your role transitioned from maybe earlier in your career to now?
I'm happy to kick that off. So I think what's really interesting is like kind of throughout, the history of the music business is technology continues to change. We continue to have these big, transitions in how music is consumed and created. I think one of the major themes is music is consistently being democratized in both the consumption and the creation, meaning it's easier and easier every day to create music and push music out to the world, and easier to consume music and cheaper to consume music. And for me, I think that's incredible and fascinating because it allows, it's created a bit more of an even playing field for the whole world to create music and get their art and creativity out there. The challenge it's created is it's created in a massive amount of volume. You know, every single day now, hundreds of thousands of songs are being uploaded on Spotify and Apple and the rest of the DSPs. And it's made our job, on one hand, great because we have access to so much more talent and I get to discover so much more talent that I probably would have been able to 10 years ago. But on the other hand, it's made our job a little more difficult because it's that much harder to cut through this huge volume of music. You know, instead of there being thousands of artists, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of artists every day. So it's kind of this really interesting phenomenon we're seeing of more and more and more. And it's certainly changed kind of the way that we discover talent and market talent. I would say, you know, all of that aside, the fundamentals of what we do are really the same, right? We're still looking for the best songwriters. We're looking for the best performers, the best voices, the most one-of-one talent. So I would say for me, the fundamentals of what I do remain the same. I still want the same thing and I'm looking for the same thing. How I get there has changed a little bit. You know, obviously, you know, the streaming revolution, you know, moving from digital, from iTunes and digital to streaming was a huge, you know, a huge moment in music. And now we're kind of at this next evolution of, well, kids aren't even discovering music on Spotify or Apple anymore. They're really discovering it off DSPs. They're finding stuff on TikTok. They're finding stuff on Instagram. They're finding stuff on Twitter. You know, so again, the places we're looking and the places people are creating continue to change. But I like to kind of stick to the fundamentals. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, the best voice is going to win. You know, the most remarkable songwriters, the most talented, clever songwriters are going to win. You know, I think that it's still looking for the most exceptional talent.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. My role hasn't really changed at all. In that I'm always looking for the best artists, you know, that I think is going to move the needle within my company. I think, if anything, when you move around, Brandon, you've been at the same place for, you know, your career. I've moved around to different companies that have slightly different perspectives and agendas, and what's considered a success for a major label is not the same metrics as what's considered a success for an independent. So so to some degree, you know, as an A&R person, I adjust my expectations in terms of what I can accomplish, what my company is looking for, what we're looking to accomplish. But the creative role is still the same. So I'm looking for a great song. I'm looking for something that speaks to me and cuts through to that point of 100,000 songs being uploaded every day. You know, yeah, it definitely, you know, lowers the bar of entry. So, you know, anyone can be an artist, anyone can upload music and make a record. And the technology, the advances in technology are really phenomenal in terms of what you're able to do as an independent creator. It brings bigger challenge for competition on our end for what we're looking for. It also has raised the level of expectation on our end. So we might still be looking for a great song, you know, a hit record, an artist that you know really resonates, but we're expecting, to a large degree, we have to expect that artists have a bit more, you know, sort of initiative to do it on their own at a certain quality level, because we know that that's available to them. And by the time, whether I don't personally, there are roles of A&R that, you know, really dig into data and metrics to, you know, sort of to scout. You know, that's not really how I've ever done my job. And it's not, I don't use technology and metrics to sort of help me determine who to sign. I use it more to help our artists when it comes to marketing and promotion, to use them as sort of effective creative tools. That being said, when an artist comes to us and has, you know, kind of no idea of how to do anything, or it sort of raises questions like, well, you know, there's a little bit of an expectation that the artists are going to have a bit more initiative and self-awareness to be able to create something at a bit higher of a level. I think generally the industry is sort of looking at that. It's not to say I wouldn't sign an artist who sits in my office and plays a great song on guitar with no technology. If it moves me, I'm probably going to want to try and work with them. But I think in terms of like how you're getting into the business, and for those of you who are getting started, understanding how all of these platforms work and how to access the best of each platform to your benefit, whether you're an artist, to know how to put your music out there in a way, you know, create cool content, or whether you're looking to be an A&R person and you can use, you know, all of the platforms to, you know, find cool music and really get to know an artist before you're even in the same country with them. You know, that part of technology is pretty incredible, to be honest. So
You both touched on important parts of like it's now easier to release music, but that comes along with there's just so much out there, there's so much noise. So it's very possible for great music to get lost in a great sea of noise. What are some tactics that you've seen? Because we have a range of artists in the room. So we have artists that are just starting, we have artists who have distribution deals, we have artists who have had some big things, we have artists who have won some big awards at TikTok. And, you know, the common theme is getting to that next level, getting to that A&R person or getting to that rep who can kind of get you to where you want to be. What are some tactics or some strategy that you've seen where like great artists who you might not have come across have kind of cut through and been able to get to you directly?
Lee, you want to take it?
yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting because I think in some ways, you know, the world is a lot smaller because of technology, you know, and although I definitely still find artists in some of those sort of traditional ways, a manager reaches out to me that I know, a producer, you know, I still go out and see live music. I might be one of the rare A&R people that does this pretty regularly, but that's really what inspires me, you know, and if I have an opportunity to see an artist live, and when I say live, you know, I will also include, you know, live on the internet if that's the way it needs to be, but for me that helps tell the story. It helps give me the full picture. That being said, you know, some strategies, obviously, like if you have a particular affinity for or strength using a particular platform, I would certainly encourage you to use the platforms to the best of each of their abilities. You know, if you're someone who can really, you know, maneuver TikTok in a great way, then go for it, because you certainly have an opportunity. It's not to say, you know, there's an easy way to go viral. Those are still the kind of the 1%. But if you're good at it and you enjoy doing it, you're going to probably do it more often, more consistently, and probably better. So certainly from a technology standpoint, use technology as wisely and as often and as authentically as you can. And then the flip side, on the completely opposite side, is I also, you know, do advise, like, start local too. You know, are there small venues you can start playing to really, you know, kind of get better at playing live if that's what you want to do. Are there local managers? Are there local industry resources? I don't know, you know, and it can be just in your community. Is it someone a friend who, you know, acts as your manager, who can start kind of researching the business, researching A&R people? I would say probably most A&R people aren't the best at, and some don't listen to unsolicited material, you know, that isn't coming to them through sort of a known source. But there's certainly ways of getting around that. And what becomes solicited, in my opinion, is literally anybody who reaches out in a professional manner. If somebody sends me an email, even if I don't know them, if it looks like a well-composed email with, you know, either a request to send music or a link to something, I'm going to try to listen. I might pass it along to someone else, you know, a junior A&R person, and we do have people who are going to be looking out for that too. So I think there's a lot of ways to start moving forward. And I think it's important to do it in a way that feels authentic to you. And if you are going to find a local representative or just a friend who's going to work on your behalf, make sure that they represent you in the way that you want to be represented, and what feels authentic to you, what feels, you know, what's professional, but that starts to show your music in a way that's going to allow whoever you send it to say, oh, that's really interesting, cool, let's develop a relationship. Even if it's a starting point, you may not get that first, hey, I really want to sign you after hearing a couple of songs, but certainly opening the door to getting to know you. Then we start to look at your socials, we start to watch you grow and build and develop. And I think there's a path to that. And I do think, you know, wherever your location is shouldn't be a hindrance to that, even if it takes a few extra steps to get there. I don't know. I'm sure you can add.
Yeah, that's all great. A few things come to mind for me. I think for new artists, the most important thing lean into that thing that makes you unique. When I sit with new artists and established artists and kind of, you know, like kind of look at the thing, like for me, the one common denominator amongst most successful artists is they end up leaning into that one thing that makes them so bizarre and unique. Oftentimes it's even the thing that they were made fun of for in middle school or high school. Like, you know, you know, uh, just looking at the landscape of all of our top artists, you know, Lizzo playing the flute, like the flute became the thing. It was so bizarre and so unique, but like that became the thing, and like she leaned into it and owned it. You know, Ed Sheeran, so many people told him get a band, play with a band, you know, do that thing, and like, you know, it was all about him and the guitar, and that was like the weird, you know, just him battle rapping on a guitar early in his career, and like it was leaning into that. You know, Skrillex was making these before he was even Skrillex, was making weird kind of dubsteppy music, but was in a punk band, and everyone was like, no, 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 like the dubstep, this weird electronic music you're making, like that's actually like the weird thing about you, like shine some light on that. So I think like sometimes people are trying to like I think sometimes artists are so afraid to lean into the weird thing and want to be accessible to everyone. I think music right now is about owning your niche. Lean into the niche, own your niche, find that thing that makes you unique and own it. If it offers you guys any encouragement, in, you know, growing up, I was made fun of because I had big ears, and then I ended up leaning into my ears and, you know, made a living off of it. So I guess it works on the business side too. Um, um, you know, so I think that's really important. I think consistency is extremely important in everything you do as an artist. Don't get discouraged if the numbers are not there out of the gate. Be consistent. Post every day, post 10 times a day. The most amazing thing about being a new artist is not many people are watching yet. It gives you the opportunity to make mistakes, to bump your head. Like the new artists that I see working are so ruthless. They'll post 100 times a day. Like I'm like, yo, I wish some of my established artists would act like that. You know, like they're just so consistent, consistently posting, consistently putting out music. Don't get stressed out if you have a song sitting on SoundCloud or Spotify that only has 1,000 plays. Keep going because you're building a catalog. At some point, that inflection point will happen. The whole catalog will rise, but you have to develop a catalog. That's very important as a new artist. Very quickly try and build and establish a catalog. That's incredibly important. Um, yeah, I'd say those are some kind of really important things that I've been noticing with new artists. And you know, if you're doing those things right, we will find you, I promise. You know, I think there's so many people out there, like we're just homing every single day trying to find things that feel special and are moving. So I think I would focus on building your community. That's very important too, is fan building and community building. Developing super fans is extremely important, and that kind of again goes back to owning your niche, finding that weird thing. You know, if you listen to classical Irish music and want to make that, go find 10 people that do that and like make them your fans and like own those fans. 10 super fans will pay off dividends over thousands of passive listeners. And it's all about building community. Your fans need to feel like they're part of the community. So once you find those super fans, do everything you can to build a relationship with them, make them feel ownership over you and the project, and super serve them. Talk to them every day, make them feel like they're part of this journey with you. But super fans are so important.
Amazing. I feel like you two looked at my curriculum before. We have looked at your all point, this is a very common thing, especially when you're trying to break as a new artist into that next level. Like being authentic. I think most artists think they see something trending and you have to do the same thing. That one thing works for that artist, but A&Rs are always looking for something different, something unique, something that's not like the rest, to bring into the fold. And also, we mentioned not being afraid to reach out, sending an email, sending a DM, being, you know, finding out if you do want to work with a label or a partner, why do you want to work with them? Like do some research on the person so they know that you put time and effort into reaching out to them. Okay, so Brandon and Lee, we found an artist that we like, we found a songwriter that we like. were able to get a deal, they get signed, you two are their A&R reps, what does the day-to-day look like? And maybe Lee could also go a little bit into the publishing side, if you have that background.
Sure, I guess, okay, I'll start with that then. I guess that it kind of depends on who the artist is and what their needs are. I've always looked at the role of A&R as being that of service. I'm trying to be as of service to my artist and meet them wherever they need. If I've heard that one song or that spark or whatever it is that's drawn me to them and that's enabled me to, give this opportunity, then it's my job to serve them in any way that's going to help them make a great album that's a great statement for them, to help them kind of refine their narrative. I tend to look for artists that kind of have a sense of who I think we all do. Who are they? What's special? Whether it's that one song that's unique and weird that opens the door, but what do they have to say, and how do they say it in a way that's really unique to them? So my role going into that is going to be, what is that going to look like from a recorded music side? Do they need to work with some other songwriters, or are they top line lyric and melody but need a great producer? Do they need some collaboration to sort of help refine the songs? Do they do everything 100%, but they just need me to do the functional stuff, like help them get in the studio, whatever it takes to help them make the record that expresses who they are in the way that is authentic to them. And of course, we all work for companies where the job responsibility as an A&R person is obviously, first and foremost to serve the artist, but also you have to serve your company, and you have to deliver a record that is, in the very technical terms of A&R, is commercially satisfactory. You'll see that in the contracts, to some degree. And so I think the art and the challenge of being an A&R person is how to meet both of those demands, because what happens when the artist's vision of commercially satisfactory doesn't match with the label's definition? That has happened probably to all of us, and you're at that kind of inflection point where it's like, well, we've got a really cool album, but we don't have the single that we feel can launch the record, or we don't, or the label's looking for something a little different. That can be really challenging, and I think building an honest relationship with your artist from the get-go is really important, making sure that your vision and your company's vision is aligned with theirs, and that we can serve them, the A&R person as the representative to the company, but that real creative conduit to help really accomplish those goals. So from the publishing standpoint, I think it's interesting, when I started A&R, back in the Stone Ages, so it seems, when I started A&R, it wasn't quite as prevalent for artists to need to or want to collaborate, with songwriters and writer producers. It was much more, if an artist was sort of self-sustaining or a band was self-sustaining, maybe we'd look to find a producer to help shape the sonic template of the record, and work on the functionality of making the record and delivering it, and then sort of you deliver a finished record, and then you work with the different departments of your company to help guide, or even just kind of advise the marketing and the promotion of that record. That's really on the A&R level. On the bigger picture, you help deliver the record, and then you make sure that everyone else, all the other departments, understands the music, understands the vision. Sometimes there's a little bit of championing and cheerleading even with your own company to make sure everybody gets the artist, because up until that point, maybe you're the closest person to the artist, and the artist doesn't even have has to build relationships with all the different departments of a record company. Depends on the company, but before that, if you're that creative conduit exclusively, you have to figure out ways. Now it's just more customary for artists to need and want, and sometimes be required to work with collaborators. Even a rock band will work with outside collaborators. It wasn't so heard of in the earlier days of A&R, but now that's pretty common. So knowing the landscape from a publishing standpoint, knowing who to call, because I have a publishing background, it's usually a little bit easier for me to sort of know what I'm looking for and to know where to find it. But it's also something I advise as an A&R person. Look at the landscape, study music, know what's out there. And if there's something you like or something you think that's great, look at the songwriting credits. Who wrote those songs with them? Did they do it themselves? Did they work with collaborators? Who are those writers? Follow them on social media, because writers and creators behind the scenes are generally somewhat, active on social media, get to know who they are, because that can really inform your role as an A&R person and help make the job a little easier when you're faced with a situation where you have an artist that you've worked with that needs a little bit of, sort of creative shaping one way or another. So yeah, that's at least one part of A&R.
Yeah, that was absolutely, very well said, and absolutely reflective of my experience with A&R as well. I think for me, one of my favorite parts of the job to this point is connecting the right artist with the right collaborator, whether it's a producer or a songwriter. Like I look at it as a puzzle in my head. And I might be sitting with an artist that's a brilliant melody writer, but is just having a hard time cracking the code on writing the perfect lyric, or needs help elevating their lyric. Maybe the lyric is just not quite right, or they have something they want to say but don't know how to say it in a clever way. And then it's my job to go out and say, okay, I know your personality because I've worked with you for a year. I know what you're trying to accomplish. Who's the right songwriter that you're going to work with that isn't going to piss you off, that you're going to love, and you're going to actually be friends with? Or, by the way, maybe I do want to find a writer that's going to piss you off because that's the energy that I need today. And I need you to get mad at someone and go write an angry song. So I think, to me, that's the most fun. It's really, honestly, an absolute privilege to be able to connect those dots. And sometimes it isn't even that serious. Sometimes it's the contribution is, hey, your records are perfect. We just need to find an amazing mix engineer. Like that's all it needs. And it's that difference. I like to think of us, if we can give you that 2% difference, if we can make your records 2% better, we've done our job, And sometimes that's as simple as just telling an artist, hey, like, you're done. You've already finished. Stop. Like, you've already written the 10 songs for the album. A&R is for every artist, it's so different. For some artists, it's very, very labor intensive. For others, it's about really just, it's psychological, and they have all the tools they need, and it's helping them unlock and utilize their own tools. But I love it. I love the psychological part of it. I love working with artists. I'm sure, Lee would agree. We're the ones who are on the phone with the artist at 2:00 in the morning on a weekend when they're having a meltdown. And, A&R, we have a joke. We are sometimes the first one blamed and the last one thanked. When the song doesn't do well, everyone's calling us and is like, hey man, like, you gave us a bad song. And when the song is doing well, everyone else is like, yes, we're all a genius, and the A&R guy's like, wait, what about me? It's absolutely incredible. I love the puzzle element. I love kind of in my head visualizing, well, these are all my producer friends. These are my writer friends. This is the artist. This is the goal. How do I introduce these people? And I think because of that, relationships are very important in this business. Like Lee can tell you, she's been doing this much longer than me. And I think just us being on here is a testament to it. Like, these relationships you carry with you, you'll carry the rest of your life. Every relationship is important. People that I started with as interns, or maybe I got them coffee 20 years ago, are people that I rely on now for being key collaborators of mine. Build your community as a music person too, not just the fan community, but build your community of people that you can work with, interns, mailroom, anyone. Like, everyone's a relationship and important. Don't think you're too good for someone, and also don't think, oh, I just need to meet the boss. Like, sometimes it's the assistant or the intern that actually is the relationship that's going to be fruitful. It's so important, every relationship. You never know someone you're going to meet, that could end up being the next Max Martin, or the next great songwriter, the great next producer, the next Priscilla Renee. Who would have thought, probably when Lee met Priscilla Renee, a decade ago, she was going to go on to become Money Long and have this amazing artist career at this. Like, you never know with these things. It's so important, make your relationships and manage your relationships.
That's so true.
Great point too, Darby.
I want to just add one thing to that, because it's one of the first things. I'm also an adjunct at NYU, and one of the first things I say when we either ask this question or sitting in the room in front of a group of students, it's who's your network? Like, you're sitting next to your network already. Like, you guys in the room, you on Zoom, those are the first contacts you made, and those are the peers that you're going to go into this business with. So, you know,
Yep.
everyone you meet now could be, you're sitting next to your collaborator, you're sitting next to a potential
Yeah.
manager, maybe a potential A&R person or lawyer, you know. So making those connections early on with the person right next to you can be so game changing. I mean, honestly, the people that I grew up in my generation, that I grew up in the business with, those that are still in the business, some of them are my best friends. Not, you know, the added benefit of having a job that's kind of 24/7, and it's also kind of social and interesting, where we get to work together, travel together. You form relationships that are certainly professional at the start, but the bonus of that is you form lifelong friendships and relationships. So starting in the
Yeah.
room with your roommate or your friend or someone you met, you know, yesterday in a class is like that's just, you know, it's kind of a great feeling, really, to be part of that community. So
Yeah.
don't discount the people right next to you.
Yeah.
Be, you know,
And
be their friend.
yeah, look out for, please look out for each other. Like please, everyone in this room, all of you guys, everyone on Zoom, please look out for each other. Take care of each other. There's power in numbers, there's power in community, there's power in building things together. Like, see how you can work together. Being competitive, I've never seen that work. I've always, like, when people work together and band together, whether you're artists, managers, executives, whatever it is, it's such an important, precious thing. So, like, please, everyone on this call, like, I'm sure a lot of you know each other, maybe some of you don't. It's like, you guys have a cheat code right now. You have each other. Like, stick with each other and look out for each other. Very, very important. Oh wow, we have a VIP. We have a VIP in the house that just joined.
What's such a great point is that you have 40 plus champions in the room. So 40 plus 4 streams, 40 plus 4 views, 40 plus more of an army to go out and promote your music for you. Those are both like such great points. And one thing that you said, Brandon, is one thing that I think I mentioned yesterday, is that everyone wants to reach for the top, the head, but oftentimes it's the assistants that are doing most of the work. It's the coordinators. Make LinkedIn your best friend. That everybody and anybody is on the internet. If you want to find an assistant at a label, an assistant at TikTok, an assistant at YouTube, they're more likely to respond back to you because they have time, the capacity, and they're still working to improve themselves. I have one more question. I'm going to kick it over to our lovely ladies. So one thing that I noticed in the region, and I've heard from the class, is that doing more westernized pop, hip hop, R&B isn't a thing here just yet. What are tips that you would give to an artist that's looking to cross over from a region that's not really, you know, advocating and pushing the music that they're doing into an adjacent market?
Could you, hey Nikisha, it was a bit hard to hear the end of that question. Do you mind repeating it one more time?
So what advice would you give to artists who, for example, in the MENA region, the culture is heavily rooted in like traditional and classical music? What advice or what, you know, potential strategy would you give an artist who's looking to, you know, break through or cross over to a market that is more susceptible to the type of music that they're doing?
I mean, I think I caught most of that. I think what's really incredible right now about the state of music is, you know, just look at America, for example. America used to really be the exporter of music to the world. You know, we used to think of America as, we create music here and we export out of, you know, to the rest of the world. And now when you look at the charts in America, we've actually, you know, become a huge importer of music. You know, we have K-pop and Southeast Asian music has started to dominate our charts. You know, we're starting to see Indian music, Punjabi come in and start to permeate our charts. We're starting to see music from all over the world start to permeate into America. And, you know, I think in the streaming age, like, it's a really flat world where, you know, as the streaming pipeline gets laid throughout the world and as technology advances throughout the world, you're seeing this amazing pollination, cross-pollination of all these different genres all over the world kind of connecting. You know, I really think there's like no borders in music anymore. I think, you know, for you guys, if you're looking to broaden kind of your listenership and base outside of where you are now. I really think it comes down to community, like I said earlier, kind of community building and fan building. And those 10 fans turn to 20 fans, turn to 100, turn to 10,000. And you'll start to see people pop up outside of your region, outside of your territory. They'll start to consume the music and it'll start to cross over. I wouldn't necessarily, I think if you were to have gone to Bad Bunny, 10 years ago and say, hey, like you should stop singing in Spanish and start singing in English, and that'll make your music work better in America or around the rest of the world, Bad Bunny probably never becomes Bad Bunny. I think when you see them win, it's not necessarily because they're changing what they're doing, they're just scaling it and building their audience bigger. I think, again, if Karol G woke up one morning or if BTS woke up one morning and said, hey, we're going all English, we're going to make US leaning pop music, they probably wouldn't be as big as they are now. I think it was like that, slowly injecting some English into what they were doing, but not forgetting the core and the essence of what made them special and playing to their core audience, that allowed them to scale so big.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, something, and you said this earlier too, Brandon, trying to, it's one thing to sort of study, and I'm a big believer in, study the musical landscape, study what's out there for who's doing what, who are the writers, who are the producers to help inform what you do. On the one hand, sometimes reaching out, DMing someone directly can open the door to an introduction to work with a collaborator. That's certainly one way of going about trying to sort of broaden your own horizons. But I would definitely caution not trying to acclimate or assimilate into or pre-existing styles too much. I think leaning into who you are, being the best at what you do, and then also having a certain amount of, it takes a certain amount of ambition and focus and determination, but also patience, and being patient to grow your repertoire in the way that's authentic to you, being patient in making music that sounds like what you want to say, and what's in your heart and what your narrative is and what your point of view is. If you continue to do that and to grow and to build, and then you find your audience, 1 by 1, 10 by 10, 100 by 100, as you start to build, trying to follow trends to me never really works. Although honestly, like the music industry has done okay by sometimes following trends, but it's the artists that are the trendsetters, and we will, and we are able to more easily than ever find you. So, forge sort of your own path and make us want to bring you into our world, not try to assimilate you into the world that kind of already exists. I think being an artist who can move the needle with something unique and that can kind of define a sound changes the landscape of the business. That's one thing that the music industry sometimes catches up with artists in a sense. So and certainly the globalization of music is really, really significant now, and all of the emerging markets have opportunities to be heard just at the click of a button and finding a playlist. So yeah, I think that's, I think just continuing to lean into who you are and being the best that you can be as an artist is a better path than trying to sound like somebody else.
Like when I listen to Rosalia, I feel like I'm transported to Spain, and like if she was singing in English, I don't know if I would feel such a strong connection to what she's doing. But when I listen to her music, I feel a certain thing, and the production sounds a certain way, and the visuals feel like home, and like I feel transported into, I feel like I'm being plopped down into Barcelona, Spain, and listening to her records. And I think had she put too much thought into how to Americanize or Westernize herself, like probably wouldn't even be where she is today.
I think some great points there. I love you said that change is the landscape of the music industry, because we could wake up tomorrow and there could be something different that we didn't know about today. But also being patient, something that we talked about, authenticity and consistency. So when you are ready to release music, not just having one song and then you wait 6 months to drop another song, but having a catalog and a Rolodex so someone can get that visual identity. And now we'll open it up for questions. We'll do it again like we did yesterday, or we'll try to. We have a small camera, but you just want to get, yes. And then you have a mic? Okay, perfect. And make sure to introduce yourself.
All right. Hello, hi, it's Yasu. I wanted to ask Brandon a question. There are hundreds of artists, as you said, in the industry. Now, how do you pick the talent? How do you pick the talent? And there are a lot of platforms now that showcase talents. Where are talent agents focusing now more? Is it TikTok? Is it Facebook? Is it, because you mentioned a couple, I've seen a lot of creators grow on TikTok. I want to know your aspect around that.
I think you should also say,
Okay, so I also have a big platform on TikTok. I went viral with my song and with a cover in the Middle East region, and I'm the music TikTok creator of last year. So that's why I'm asking these type of questions.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you very much for the question. And congratulations on all your success. I think I mentioned earlier, for me, as technology changes, the fundamentals still remain the same, right? So I think TikTok is an amazing tool because the algorithm is so smart. I think TikTok probably has one of the most sophisticated algorithms of any tech, the ability to pair the right music with the right visual media and send it to the right person who seemingly will want to consume it. So it's a very smart algorithm. So I like it as a artist discovery tool because it is able to show me a lot of artists and a lot of songs that I may like. To me, I think TikTok is interesting because it shows me artists I like, and it also shows me artists that are clever marketers. And I definitely think that is kind of a newfound box that we probably need to check when we're talking about, new artists is are they clever marketers? I don't, to me personally, I don't think being a clever marketer is as important as being the best vocalist, the best songwriter, the best creator. But it's definitely something I take into consideration when I'm meeting new artists is like, does this artist understand how to market themselves using technology? Are they clever? Do they have a sense of self? Do they know their own identity? And on TikTok, I'm pretty quick at being able to kind of scroll through and see, oh, look, wow, this person's doing something really interesting. I want to know more. I want to learn more. And I have a whole team of people that work for me that sit around all day and have kind of, we have software that can kind of show us like in real time what are the top songs on TikTok, what's performing well where. So for me, TikTok is definitely an important tool for artist discovery. But it's an important tool to the extent that it allows me to kind of evaluate those fundamentals of voice, songwriting, star power, charisma. But I'm fascinated by TikTok. It's probably the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is scroll, and the last thing I do before I go to bed.
Yes, I have a question because I know there are a lot of amazing talents that TikTok offered us a platform to grow, yet I rarely see people taken by labels. Like I see them for years on the platform, big, but they're never taken by labels. They're never chosen to go into that route of being an artist. And that's my main question. Like you as a talent agent, what would you just enjoy watching them and like see like there's future potential and just like scroll after and find someone else, or
yeah so I think something that I'm always mindful for on TikTok is there's a difference between an influencer and an artist, and sometimes on TikTok those two things get confusing. There might be people that are huge on TikTok that are so clever at marketing, that are so smart that they were able to take maybe a not great song or a half a song or whatever and make it appear great, or they have a great platform on TikTok, but they're just not a really great artist at the end of the day. Like there's a lot of those on TikTok. So that's something I need to be very mindful of when I'm finding artists on there. So that's, I think, why there can be examples sometimes of artists that are really huge on TikTok. I think they probably are more of an influencer than they are actually a recording artist. And I meet those types of people all the time. I meet Addison Ray type people all the time who are like really smart at using the platform and have huge platforms, but maybe aren't, as keyed into the artistry side as I would want them or need them to be a successful recording artist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understood your point, but and I'm gonna give my case as an example. Entering into like slightly the influencer field makes people want to know more about you and makes you build that super fan base that you're saying. That's why in my case I did that. I tried to like touch on the influencer field, and that's why I was asking the question, should I just like not focus on the influencing thing and just focus on my art more, push that more, but I'm at risk of losing a lot of audience because they have this curiosity of knowing who I am, why am I doing this, why am I doing this music?
So I think,
Yeah.
I have a perspective too on this, Brandon. I think for artists too, like TikTok is a marketing company. Like for discovering new music, if you like, again, you're just getting eyeballs. You're not getting actual fans where you're going everywhere. So definitely still use it as a marketing platform. So figure out how to create a funnel and bring them to your actual music. So say you have a giant following, you're building toward a release. How are you funneling your TikTok into being like real plays and real views for other things like Spotify and YouTube? Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. And then we'll talk to Martina on Zoom, and then we'll set up the next person for the question. Martina?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Brendan and Lee. Thank you for being here. It's very inspiring to meet you. I just had one question. We all hear about the successful case studies about record label, how an artist started and how they boomed. So I wanted to ask you about one case study that did not work out and what were the factors that stopped the artist from booming. Thank you.
Wow, tough question. I'm gonna kick that to Lee.
There's so many answers to that question, and it's so artist specific. I guess I want to just sort of give the most general answer, as an entry point. The artists whose campaigns don't succeed, or who kind of don't break through, it's not really always or ever attributable to one sort of fundamental failure. There can be so many missteps that happen along the way, timing, what else is in the marketplace that takes away the attention, but for me, fundamentally, and I think this even sort of goes into the question you guys were just talking about before, it's having a strong repertoire, having more than just kind of one song. So, these days, we are kind of in a singles market, and certainly all the labels, we're going after a big single based on, a first single, a big single. Maybe it's something that's started off on a particular platform or gone viral. But if you don't have strong follow-up, if you don't have a great song, a great next song, and a smart plan of execution in how to sort of build smartly, and again with thought and with patience, it's really easy for things to kind of just come out, make a little noise, and then just fizzle. It's easier than ever for that to happen, unfortunately, and oftentimes the big success stories are kind of the exception to the rule. There are a lot of artists out there that kind of come out strong and then just kind of fizzle. From my perspective and working at an independent, we try to be really careful from an economic standpoint and to work with a budget and a timeline and a campaign that allows for time for the artist's voice and vision to develop, and allows for time for a single to grow, either out in the marketplace, on platforms, digitally, through touring, through press. There really needs to be, in order to sort of break through, a kind of coordinated effort, coordinated campaigns of whatever strategies you're using that's unique to that particular artist, to sort of go in it knowing that it's going to take a little time to build and develop. And I think the things that the campaigns that fail, to me, either are too front loaded and they throw a lot out there and they hope for, you know, a big result, but don't have the follow up, whether that's the music or whether that's the economics to be able to continue the campaign. Sometimes a campaign needs a few extra months if the budget isn't there and an artist is, you know, being funded, you know, conservatively. You can run out of money just when you need a little bit more support. So being smart and thoughtful and having people around your team to help manage the finances, manage the strategy and the structure so that there's time to develop and that there's music that can support that development. Again, that's a very general answer, but I think just being thoughtful about the timeline of a campaign so that it's not all there for 1 minute and then gone, because it really is, that doesn't really develop an artist. There's a difference between having a hit single, a viral single, and building a career. And if you're the kind of artist that wants to have a career, you have to have sort of take the long road.
Mm-hmm.
So artists should, sorry, I have a follow-up question. So artists should constantly release new music, right?
Yeah.
And the last question is, what's the difference between releasing multiple singles and an EP? Does it make the artist look better when we release EPs or albums more than multiple singles?
I don't think so. I think that that's more, I mean, it's dependent on your economics, your goals. Do you have a vision for something that you want to sell as a bundle? I think if you're just starting out and looking to sort of build traction, continuing to release singles and content and making sure there's visuals attached to those songs so that we can get to know who you are as a person, not just a digital kind of linear single. I think the visual content is almost more important than whether there's an actual EP attached to it. You may have a different opinion about that, but
yeah, I totally agree. If I were a new artist right now, I'd literally be putting out music every few weeks, songs, EPs, albums, mixtapes. I don't think you can. I think how you release it is all semantics. Like I don't know that 5 songs versus a 5-song EP really matters. I think it's just about being consistent. Like, you know, if you go home and you have 30 songs you want to release over the next year, like just be consistent. You know, you're going to break that up into a bunch of different EPs or singles every 3 or 4 weeks. Like, I just think don't dump it all at once. Just be very, very consistent. Continue to feed your fan base and build the catalog.
Thank you.
I think we may have lost connection.
Yeah.
Did we lose Nikisha? Let's see. Oh, they just lost power in the entire school back shortly.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Do any of you guys?
What a way to end the hour.
Any of you guys have more questions in the meantime?
Holla.
Holla.
Yeah. Hi everyone.
Hi.
I cannot say how much I value everything you guys have mentioned and said since you started. So I just want to thank you so much. We are unfortunately in the industry is here, the labels, the disties are here, everything is here, but there's no catalog. Like, we do not know anything. We are so uninformed. We have very little information on how things go. So Nivak and you guys, as I wouldn't say guest speakers, I would say very, very valuable information nurturing us. So thank you for that, honestly, like from the bottom of my heart. And I would like to ask my question. So my question is, okay, so how is a relationship formed between an artist that already has a manager? So as an A&R, if you are meeting an artist that has a manager, or if you've seen a talent that has a manager, do A&Rs like work in exclusively? Are you still able to benefit? Like, how does that work? So for example, if you're scouting or if you're in this venue and you've seen this talent and you have these opportunities, or you can see some sort of vision, how does that work if this artist is sort of in not in a label, but more of like they have their manager or something. How does the relationship work? Because a lot of the things you said were actually things that managers do. For example, the psychological or the mental or the stuff. So I'm very curious to know how does that work when an artist like myself, I'm signed to Warner Music. I'm very, very happy to be an 8-month signed to Warner, but Warner doesn't represent me. So for example, now I have a management team, but I would still am seeking continuous support and continuous recognition and opportunities. So how does that work? If my question makes sense in the way.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's an absolutely great question. Obviously there's a little bit of a difference between, you know, an artist manager and a record label and an A&R. I'm sure, you know, but just to give some background there, a manager typically works directly for the artist and represents them for everything you know, a record label is really at the end of for the most part coming in to do a deal with an artist to you know, release and monetize the music, and we work in partnership with managers, so it's not like an either or. It's not where, oh, an artist has a manager, a record label and an A&R can't work with them. I would say 99.9% of our artists have managers. And most artists, or I wouldn't say most, but many artists that we're scouting already have managers. And that's great. We need that team. Like, you need a full team around you as an artist. You need a manager. You oftentimes have a booking agent that just focuses on your touring. You know, Lee spoke about publishing earlier. Oftentimes you have a music publisher that represents you as a songwriter and helps you collect your publishing revenue. And then you have the record label who, again, is primarily focused on the recorded music side, but oftentimes is being involved in every facet of your career, because all these different parts of your career help the music. So we work very closely with managers. You know, usually, you know, if I'm getting on the phone with an artist, I'm actually, you know, I'm on the phone with their manager as well. And we're all talking, we're all in the text thread, we're all on the emails. And you know, every relationship is a little different. There's some artists that sometimes want their manager to communicate for them, and they'll actually have their manager talk to me and talk to Lee and talk to the label. There's other artists that like to just have the direct relationship on their own and you know, want to talk directly to me. It's all a little bit different, but having a manager or not having a manager has, you know, very little implications when it comes to scouting talent. If you have a manager, that's great. I'm super excited. If you don't have a manager, totally cool. That's fine with me too. And I'm also happy to help find our artist managers. You know, sometimes we'll sign an artist that has no manager, and I'll say, hey, let me introduce you to 5 different managers you should go get lunch with and see who you like. Maybe you hate all of them. I'll introduce you to 5 more. So it's really, you know, a whole team. It's like a whole kind of circle we're filling up of your team around you. And you know, a great manager is so important, and we love working with awesome managers. So does that help answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. But it strikes me, the technical aspect of it, like how do you guys benefit and how does that look on paper? For example, if an opportunity, do you kind of understand my question? Like, how does that work when an opportunity comes?
How does the opportunity come to get a manager or to have a manager?
No, from your side, for example, yes.
Are you asking how the economics, the financials all work?
So for example, if there is, let's just point out any sort of opportunity that comes from your side. For example, a big collaboration or a festival or something that you guys, a project that you're working on and you're scouting talent for it, and then you get in contact with the manager. So how does the technical and the paperwork look for you and the manager, if I may ask?
I'm not I mean, I think you're talking in kind of overlap. There's some overlap, I think, a little bit, because I think the way Brandon was describing it is like each relationship is a little bit different. And I think you can break it down sort of from an economic standpoint, where the record company's kind of job and concern has to do on the master recording side. The job is to sort of put out a record. There's also the publishing side that works on the composition side with the songwriter. The manager is the sort of through line to the artist. There can be a booking agent if you're live, but how the opportunities come, sometimes they come a little bit randomly too. I mean, it's generally a booking agent's job to go out and find those festivals and to interact with promoters and venues and you know, festival organizations around the world. Those opportunities ultimately vet through a manager, and a record company isn't necessarily involved. I mean, if there are some situations where record companies are involved a little bit on the touring, but they're kind of like separate ecosystems a bit. And the through line would be that the manager sort of vets and helps the artist sort of plan and then contract, you know, with an agent or with a label for the master side, depending on what the situation, you know, what the opportunity is. And the manager is the one that works for the artist. So the contract between the artist and the manager is unique and specific, where an artist can have a record deal that's a specific deal, a publishing deal that's specific, and then do individual, you know, kind of planning tours and having specific contracts for concerts and for tours. That's a separate part of the business too. I don't know if that answered your question, but if that's what you're asking.
Yes, it does answer it, because as I mentioned, I know it seems that like a silly or like a beginner's question, but even as a signed artist, I don't understand a lot of the different personnels and how they come together and work. And specifically from an economics perspective and from a technical perspective, regardless where the opportunity is coming from, like how does everyone get to work together? But you've answered it pretty clearly. Thank you so much.
It's a good question.
John?
Any
Sorry,
other questions?
I just wanted to jump in and just say that we can also just make like almost like a graph or like a map, and we can kind of like give you a couple of examples of how each person is related to the other, and what each person does in relation to the other, and how each party makes money. We're happy to do that, because this is complicated stuff. It's not intuitive, you know.
And these are great questions. Like, you know, these are things, you know, we working in the business for as long as we have, certain things we take for granted, not, you know, and that's why we're here to try to, you know, make sure that any question that is out there, you know, has an opportunity to be answered. It can be kind of hard to find the information. So, you know, no question is ever too basic.
Absolutely. What else? Who else has some questions?
John?
Sure. Hi. Thank you so much for your time. I'm an indie artist, and I think something that you guys both talked about is the idea of when you're first starting off to just like put all this content out, drop music every 3 to 4 weeks. And my question is, when do we know to do that versus, you know, on TikTok as well, it seems like a lot of people do an opposite strategy, which is take that one snippet of your song and just before dropping the song for months, just like keep, you know, putting content out on it. And so it's like, but you also have artists like Ross who dropped a song a week and then suddenly like things took off for him. So I never know, you know, what works for
Yeah.
You know.
So I think absolutely great question. You remind me of all of my own artists with your these are great questions. So I think you're kind of touching on two different things. One is utilizing TikTok or social media to market something, and one is releasing music. And you kind of need to be doing both things at once, right? Like you need to be consistently releasing music, but you also need to be really like militant about how often you're hitting these sounds, and like and I don't think one of those things precludes you from doing the other. Like you can tease a song for 6 months and keep hitting the sound and hitting the sound. And then like Jack Harlow, for you guys know Jack Harlow, one of our artists, like Jack right now, we're teasing a new song. We've been teasing it for like maybe 10 days. He started with there was like a video of him and his puppy, and that started to go viral, and we're going to put the song out in 2 weeks. So we'll have teased that song for about a month before it came out. And like, he's just consistently teasing that same song. I don't necessarily think that prohibits you from then, once that song comes out, a few weeks later, having another song and having already teased that. So I think you got to think of it as like, your music release schedule is here, your teasing schedule is down here. And even if you're releasing music every 3 or 4 weeks, it doesn't mean you can only be teasing one thing at a time. You need to consistently be teasing and promoting things as well. Like, I know artists that'll tease a song for a year. They'll just keep using the same sound on and off. They might be teasing 10 songs at once. So I think as long as you're being consistent, I don't think you need to think in a vacuum of, oh, well, I can only market this one thing at once. If you're making 25 posts a week or 10 posts a week, whatever it is, tease all these different things. Just be consistent. You have to be consistent.
Yeah, and you know what the challenge is as an independent artist, you have to be the creator first and foremost. You're writing the songs, you have to be inspired to continue to write and continue to release music, songs, content. But then you also have to be your own marketing strategist and essentially be like your CEO of your own label. Before you get to the point of having partners in the industry and doing this all on your own to get to that point, it really is a challenge. And I think one of the things that's important to think about when you're making these decisions and when you're putting these schedules together for yourself is balancing the creative with the business, because it does kind of take a combination of both. I mean, without the original unique content, that's really it's the foundation. It's what we've talked about from the beginning today, the great music that kind of drives all of it. But also sort of planning and as you're making your schedules and your calendars as an independent artist, you have to think like a business person, and you have to make sure that there's time for strategy, time to learn how to master different technologies, different platforms, and also downtime. And if there's one thing I want to say in this, and Brendan, you started going on this path earlier, this is really important for anyone who's an independent artist and anyone who's an artist and a creator. Make time and space to take care of yourself and balance and have time to read a book to inform your art, and have time to take a walk in nature to like clear your head. It's really important, because when you have to be your own artist, your own manager, your own label, and your own CEO, you can burn out really fast. And I think I've seen that with young artists, and it's something that we put all of this, and I know I said it, there's an onus on artists to do all of this stuff to sort of get to the point where they're showing us, okay, they're ready to be at the next level. Don't do that at the expense of your own health. Find a way to balance and budget, and again, give yourself the grace and patience so that you can have a long-term career. You don't have to get to the finish line immediately. If you're going to continue to write and you want to have a career, pace yourself so that you can be healthy, and that also is going to make you a better and happier artist. That's kind of simple, but it's easy to forget.
Great advice. Absolutely. I saw one quick follow-up question in the chat from Martina about teasing that I just wanted to hit quickly before we moved on, asking if it's necessary to always do teasers. There is no rule book anymore. The rule book has kind of been thrown out the window. I would say more often than not, I see artists that tease and set up their music more successful. So I would certainly encourage it. I think it's a great way of kind of building familiarity and building this anticipation to the release. I try not to think too linear. Like, I think so many young kids consume their music on TikTok, like don't even go on Spotify or Apple to listen to music anymore. So I think it's very important to like build this familiarity on there. But everyone's different, so I would certainly encourage it. I think, if you consistently do it, you'll see the results. But it's certainly not a hard and fast rule that everyone is doing. Nikisha, are we back live? Don't think so yet. Any other
No.
questions
I
from us
see
over?
Nikisha is on mute. I don't know if there's sound problems there.
We're
I
having
have a
audio
question.
issues.
Yeah.
Aziza, did you want to ask
Is
your
it-
question?
Yes, I have a question related to what Lee has said. Does the success of the artist depends completely on the quality of the song, or is it يعني, a really good song, or is it another criteria that helps in that success, whether it's a good team planning behind in the back scenes, or as a good branding or promoting for it? I mean, sometimes not really a good songs makes a big hit.
Mhm.
So I want to know how the process looks like from A to Z, from creating the part of creation till the final outcome of the track or the song.
Great question. And once again, there isn't really one answer. We're really in like the Wild West in the music business in the sense that it doesn't have to happen one way, and it doesn't happen one way. And sometimes, sadly, sometimes the best song doesn't win first. I do want to be, I'm idealistic. I've been doing this a long time, and I believe in the power of music and the power of a great song to ultimately make the most significant impact and to give an artist the best opportunity for a career path forward. But one song doesn't necessarily build a career. So so in today's industry, and given the fact that most artists, or many artists, are starting out, you know, as artists in and around the music industry, because if you're putting out music on TikTok, you're not in the music business yet. You're on a platform, you know, and to a very large degree, you don't need the music business to enter to be an artist and to release music. You still need the music business to build a sustainable career to a certain degree, although I'm sure that can be proven differently by independent artists who just release their own music over time. You don't even really need that, but in terms of like building, you know, building a strategy, building step by step, putting a team together is the more sort of it's certainly the more typical way that an artist can build a career, because having the resources of having people on your team, having a booking agency to, you know, to help you find touring opportunities in a very competitive touring landscape, having a manager who's got your back no matter what label you sign to, because one of, you know, we were talking before about the different players and their involvement. Having a manager who works for you means what happens if you don't have success on a label? You put out a record, it doesn't work out, you get dropped from your label. You're not getting automatically dropped from your manager. You have a contract when you work, or presumably you work with your manager. A good manager is going to stick with you and help you find another place to release music. You might have a publishing deal and not a record deal, and maybe you work and you write songs with and for other people, and then you put your own record out. So there isn't one way that it can work. But in terms of like, you know, kind of what that success looks like, and that A to Z, to a certain degree, it has to, you should do a certain amount of soul searching about who you are as an artist and what your goals are, and then work step by step to try to build the team and the resources around you to create that outcome, and put music out in the way that's authentic to you, and use the platforms that you're most comfortable with, and work towards getting better at the ones you're not so comfortable with, because they're great tools. You know, social media is an amazing connector when it's done right, when it's used smartly. But there isn't one way that it has to work. And yeah, sometimes a not great song breaks through because it gets a great opportunity, but that doesn't necessarily mean that artist is going to have a career. It just means that moment is very, very visual and very immediate. But if you want one big hit single and then to move on, that's okay too. If you want a career, you have to kind of take different steps to build it, you know, more strategically.
Hi, everyone. This is Nikisha. So we're back, but in a hybrid capacity with the camera and my phone. So I want to answer, if we still have time, answer a couple questions in the room.
Sure.
Great.
She's gonna ask and then I'll ask.
Yeah. So I'm gonna look over there. Oh, okay.
Hi everyone, thank you for your time. I wanted to get an A&R perspective on this question. So what do you think about a musician who does a lot of different things? And when I say different things, I mean musically, because I have been at a crossroads for a really long time because I needed to choose which way to go in terms of what do I do with my sound, what genre do I choose? Because I'm a classical pianist and I'm also an indie pop. I'm a classical pianist. I am also an indie pop songwriter and singer. And like next month, I have a gig. I'm debuting as songwriter, and also I have a classical recital. So if you see someone that does both of those things, do you look at them like their art is diluted, or them themselves are diluted artists, or do you see that as a pro? Because it's not a matter of doing different things can make you do them poorly, because I know I can do both really well, but I'm afraid of like positioning myself in a way that can hinder my career. So I do both, and sometimes I have conflicting events. I have a recital, and on the next day I have a gig where I'm a different person completely. So what do you think about that? Do you think that makes me a diluted artist, or do you think that's a pro?
That's a really great question. My first answer is if you're a creative with such a broad range of talents, try to find a way to highlight all of those talents and gifts, and don't put yourself in the box of having to make a decision. It's true that certain companies are going to be more inclined to, if you're doing classical music, that's a different path professionally than, doing pop or there might be different companies. I want to say, in the most idealistic sense, having all of that talent is really amazing. And the industry does sometimes tend to want to tell you to pick a side and to choose. But if you're a holistic artist in that way, building your socials and showing showing the range of talent, you should be able to use social media, use platforms to sort of holistically point to you as that artist. Like, what's the through line for you narratively? Like what are all these, how did you start doing all of this? And what's your love for classical? And what's your love for pop? Try to sort of build into who you are as an artist as a whole. It's almost like self-marketing in that sense, so that you don't feel like you have to be boxed in. I definitely understand your point, but I don't know that there's really one answer, but I think you have to be true to yourself, and you should use that to your advantage and try not to allow the industry constraints or formatical constraints to to inhibit a talent. I think that would be shortchanging yourself as an artist.
Absolutely agree. I think it's all about making it one world. I think you can't think of it as like you kind of have these two separate worlds, and you're afraid of this one bleeding into that, and Monday you're doing classical and Tuesday you're doing something else. I think you need to find a way to kind of amalgamate it all into one thing that's uniquely you. Like we were saying earlier, like the thing that makes you unique is probably going to be your best weapon, and I wouldn't run away from it. For example, I have a friend who is loves classical jazz music, and I think she was a bit apprehensive about like being a young person making, jazz music, and there isn't really many examples of like, young artists making jazz music becoming very popular recently. And she decided to go full steam ahead making, kind of jazz music and really leaned into it. And over the last year, her name is Laufey. She's from Iceland, Laufey. And over the last year, she's probably become maybe one of the top 3-4 most exciting new artists in music. And, I don't think we've seen an artist like her maybe since, like a Norah Jones. And she leaned into what made her really unique. And I think had she run away from the classic and jazz of it all, she probably wouldn't be the artist she is today, but she found a way to pull it all into her world and tell a story, and kind of make the jazz thing and the pop thing all bring it into one. So I think just try and make it into your world, your unique world. And it should be one thing. It shouldn't be Monday or this, Tuesday or that. It should all be you.
Yeah, that actually becomes your superpower. It's true. That's your superpower, is the fact that you have such a broad background in musical styles. That should be the thing that you brag about everywhere you can, in the best way.
I try. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, first off, it's really nice to talk to you. So I kind of had a few questions. The first one, it's kind of similar to Tasneem's, but in her case, she was talking about the different worlds musically. And yesterday we were talking about the perspective of an artist manager, but for A&R. If, for instance, I do other things other than music, I like to draw, I like to dance, I like to model, like jack of all trades kind of thing. Is this like a pro thing, or you would tell me like try to focus on the one thing?
No, I love that. Make your own artwork, show people the art. Like, that's absolutely incredible. I think, again, you just make it all part of your world. Don't segment these things. If you're a visual artist, show people, make your own artwork, make your own music videos, direct your own music videos. I think the more you can show people you're a multi-hyphenate, the better. Just don't make them separate worlds. Just try and have it all tell the same story. But I think that makes you even more compelling and is amazing.
Okay. Couldn't agree more. And that, when you hear a song, when a fan or even just sort of a passive listener is scrolling through a particular platform and you hear something or you see something that's compelling, the first thing most of us want to do is like dig in a little. Oh, that was a cool song. Oh my gosh, she makes pottery too, and she does art, and that's really great. It shows who you are as a whole 360 creative person, and it makes you unique. And there are so many different platforms that exist now where you get to show that side of those different sides of you. And if it's all being sort of framed in and around the songs that you put out there, then that's like the best. That's I think every fan wants to know more about their artists and know their hobbies and fans, and what a great time to be able to showcase that. And like Brandon said, yeah, make it your world. That's really special and amazing.
So could that kind of be my thing, that I do a lot of things, but I relate them all, like you said, to music, the same world? That could be the same.
Absolutely.
Okay, my other question was, once you spot an artist that you like, an artist catches your eye, do you study them a little bit first before you decide to reach out to them, or how does it usually go once the artist caught your eye?
I get super excited, and I when we see something exciting, like it's so rare sometimes. Like when you see something that's so exciting to you, I think we have this like impulsive response of like, I need to meet this person. I need to find out if it's as amazing as I think it is. So I think we're usually pretty quick to, when we see something, find a way to get in touch, reach out, set up a call, set up a Zoom, fly an artist out to meet them. I think that's one probably like a common trait you'd see amongst most A&R people is we have this just like very quick instinct for when you see something amazing, you just move really quick. I think in what we do, fortune tends to favor those that are fat. Like there's a speed element. There's been times before where I've found something amazing and I've like hesitated and like watched it for a week. And then like I find out they get signed the next day, like I was late by 24 hours. So, when I find something I love now, like I drop what I'm doing, doesn't matter what time of day it is, and try and get in touch and talk to that person, build a relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, that is certainly part of the business that we're all in, where it is competitive and there's and sort of the time factor and the enthusiasm. It's true. We listen listen to music all day long. When something really catches your attention, it's hard not to react, and it's hard not to be passionate about that and say, okay, I need to know everything about this artist immediately. So it's definitely, it's business, and it's also just that's kind of who we are as people.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And my final question to you would be, if one day maybe I have more songs released and I would like to reach out, do you look at emails more, or is it LinkedIn? And if I reach out, is there a certain like layout to what I should include when I reach out to A&Rs, something that should be mentioned, anything I should follow?
I don't think I've looked at a LinkedIn page in my entire life. So that may not be the best route to go. I think keep it short and sweet. Sometimes less is more, just like the important information. When I get an email that's like so long or confusing, like sometimes I honestly just skip it or delete it. I'm getting so much email. I think if you can find a personal connection with someone, like when someone I know is sending me something, like I'm probably going to listen to it or check it out a lot quicker. So, I think that's where you guys need to kind of be sleuths a little bit and like, oh, do I have a mutual friend with this person? Or do I have some sort of common entry point? Like how am I going to grab that attention? But I would just keep it short, sweet, and to the point. This is the music. These are the couple key songs. Send 3 songs instead of 30 songs. Send the best stuff first. But short, sweet, to the point. And again, I think where you can find, again, our job is to go out and find amazing people. If artists are doing something amazing, hopefully we're going to find you. I typically don't get as many, I don't find as many artists from just like the cold call email. That probably isn't where I'm finding most of my music these days. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Completely agree. I can't add anything to that because it's true. And I just joined LinkedIn kind of recently. Haven't used it much. And I think of it as different. Like LinkedIn seems like a business thing to me. It's not a place where I like live and pay attention to music. So
Okay.
And anyone, just another thing to note, anyone that tries to get you to pay to listen to your music or pay to get music to like labels and A&R, please like never speak to that person ever again. Like don't let anyone fool you guys. Like do not do that. Don't waste your money. Don't let anyone fool you. Like run the other direction if you ever see someone that like is claiming to work in the music business and wants you to pay them to listen. That is not real. That is a scam.
Yeah.
Some people in this room can relate.
One thing I would add to that too, and I agree that cold emails don't work too well. I'm sort of looking in the chats. It's random where someone's going to respond to a cold email. But if you have to resort to that, or if that's the only way that you can attempt to get someone's attention, one thing that I would advise is do your homework on the person that you're sending it to. Don't just sort of blast cold emails to every A&R person whose name you come across. Do a little homework as to like, who is that A&R person? What kind of music do they tend to work with? What's on their roster? What's at their company? And then do a really short introduction. This may or may not work for different people, but I will say I have been more likely to open an email that's really short that just says, hey, I know you're probably not accepting unsolicited material, but I'm a new artist and I love the work you did on X record, or I love your company, or something, show that you've done a little homework and a little research, and then say, here's the kind of artist I am. Would you be open to hearing a song or two? And if I get a respectful, short, concise email like that, I'm probably going to respond. First of all, I'm going to read it faster than those long ones, which I don't delete them, but they sit in my, to-do inbox kind of, for probably too long. But I'm probably more likely to say, okay, this person seems like they're really together and I want to give that shot, because truth is, like, our job is to find new artists and find music. And there is a sense of like, hey, you never know where you're going to find something and someone great. So I never want to close the door to that. There's certainly time constraints involved with that, but I think your best bet is to try to come in, concisely, respectfully, maybe even just ask permission to send a song or to attach a link, and you might get a response.
Thank you so much.
I think that's such great feedback too, is doing the research of who the person is you're reaching out to. And not like it can be cold, but like the internet tells you everything about a person that you could ever know. So you could look up Brandon and find out that he likes to eat ice cream on Tuesdays and classic cars. So maybe you send him an email about your favorite ice cream and your favorite car. And by the way, I have this new EP coming out. Would you mind listening to it? Like there's a way to like warm intro and soften that initial engagement.
Yes, Nikisha, if you really did your homework, you'd know that I love chicken fingers and that I will take any email any day of the week if you tell me the best chicken finger in town.
Best chicken
You guys
fingers
just
when
learned it.
Brandon comes to Cairo.
You just learned the best information ever to get to Brandon.
Mhm.
And then I think we probably have time for 2 more questions in the room. Come on up. Yeah. Well, we'll start with, it's your birthday, so we'll start with you, and then if you want to come up.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
That's great. Well, this is Nuron. I'm a pop singer-songwriter. So I have a question for you guys. With so many emerging artists in pop, what's the newest thing you're always looking for in an artist, and how to like not get boring with your music or like repetitive or such things?
For me, it's again, like I keep coming back to it, but it's the fundamentals of I want to hear a voice that I think is truly one of one and unique, a vocal tone that's unique. I want the best. I like working with creators. So for me, I love artists that are amazing at songwriting or producing. I want the best storyteller, the best songwriter, the most clever songwriting and lyrics that I've heard. Those are the things that I look for. You know, additional to that is you know, kind of like the next tier down for me is, are they a clever marketer? Like, do they know their sense of self? Can they dance? Have they played shows? Are they great live? Those are kind of all the questions I ask myself. But really, to even get through those, you know, to get there, like to get through my first line of defense, it's do you have the best voice? Are you the best songwriter? Are you the best storyteller? Like for me, those are the things. Like I want to work with the best creators in the world, and if you're the best at creating something, like that's really exciting to me and someone I want to work with.
Yeah,
Great. How about you, Lee? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I really exactly the same thing. The fundamentals for me haven't changed so much. One thing, you know, and we've talked about this a lot today, you know, something that resonates emotionally, something that makes me feel, whether that's an artist's voice that feels so that it's so emotionally compelling, whether it's a lyric or a hook in a song or something that just from the minute I hear it just resonates deeply with me. And also, you know, I definitely tend to be more inclined to like to hear newer production sounds, or not something that sounds like something that's already been out there. And what that is, you know, sometimes like, you know what, when you hear it, something that really just like that makes that, you know, makes you get the goosebumps, you know. And I lean towards something that's going to be more adventurous and more unique sounding, you know, telling a story in a more unique way, because there's a lot of competition in the pop landscape, and again, you can, if it's something really compelling and a really great song and fundamentally a lyric and a melody that tells a great story, but it's presented in a unique way and or accompanied by, you know, if there's other visuals or something that, you know, that I then dig into also as sort of a second phase of like, okay, I think this is really amazing, let me find out about the artist a little bit. If it sounds unique from a sonic standpoint, if the production's got even just a little bit of something that's a little unique and quirky, that's a big win for me, because I'd much rather be you know, working with an artist that's got their own vision, that isn't trying to sort of take too much from what's already out there.
Great, thank you so much.
Last question.
Okay. Where to sit?
You can and then you just have to speak it.
Okay.
Hello, it's Dio. I'm an R&B singer-songwriter, and I have a question. If we assume that a song is a product, what's the best strategy to introduce a new product in the market, and how to target the right audience for it?
I missed the last part of that question. Could you say that again?
How to target the right audience? How to target the right audience?
I think as far as targeting the right audience, I think you need to kind of let the audience, I think you need to let the audience come to you. I think like the first stage of kind of being a developing artist is figuring out who your audience is, right? So you're putting out music, you're starting to put out content. I think I mentioned earlier the concept of a super fan. Like start to see who those first few people are who are like super highly engaged with you, commenting on stuff, you know, reposting your music, following you on all the platforms. See who those super fans are, what are their commonalities, and you'll start to figure out who your audience is. I think it's almost impossible to go into it to become an artist and say, okay, my audience is just this or just that. You kind of have to figure it out along the way and see who the audience becomes. And then you have to target those people. It's kind of that has to come first, and then marketing to them comes second. So I think that's really important is you got to let the audience come to you. And then once you start to see those early super fans say, oh, wow, well, I've noticed that my audience is maybe a little younger than I thought. Maybe I thought my audience were people in their mid-20s, but it actually, you know, these first 10 super fans that are commenting on my stuff, they're all females and they're all, you know, between 16 and 20. And that's interesting. And then you start to target those types of people and start to like lean into those super fans, and 10 becomes 100 and so on and so forth from there. So I wouldn't overthink specifically who is your fan out of the gate. I would start to figure that out along the way of putting music out and putting content out, and let your fans come to you, and just be really smart about continually checking who are my fans. If you got 100 new followers on Instagram over the last week, spend a little time learning about those fans, those 100 new followers. Like are 75% of those new 100 followers all a certain type of person or from a certain part of the country or a certain part of the world? You know, wow, I got 50 new fans from Canada. Like, what's going on in Canada that makes them all like my music? Start to think like that.
That's so true. And one of the best uses of technology is looking at your back-end analytics on all of the platforms where you release music. As an artist, you have access to so much information, and that, you know, when we talk about using technology wisely, doing the research yourself, looking at all of the information you can access when you're, you know, like Apple for Artists, Spotify for Artists, like go into those back-end analytics and really study your market. That's really how you define your market and how you grow it. And if you don't know who it is, you're just sort of putting music out there. But as you start to release music, you can build that. But just, you know, learn how to maximize your knowledge base on every platform where you release music.
Thank you so much.
Then last question, I said that was the last one, but one more is gonna come from me. So if any of these students, any of these artists were to walk away with one piece of knowledge or advice from the both of you, what would that be?
Boy, just one?
Or maybe two.
I don't know. I will start with saying, being a creator is an amazing gift. And the fact that you are all here trying to learn about how to make your gift into a career, have a career as an artist or a creator of any kind, honor that within yourself first and foremost, and try to stay true to yourself and be authentic, and in doing things the way you feel is right, you only need a few believers to get started. You don't have to, you can only sign with one company at a time, or one record company or one publishing company. You just need a few believers to build a career, and you want to build it in a way that is, authentic to you, but that is also comfortable for you. Pay attention to, again, your mental health, the time frame involved in all of this. Give yourself time to create. And one thing I will say as a creator, specifically as a creator, continue to do things that inform your art, and whether that's reading a book. It might not be music centric. I know I will say, research music, learn all about music, learn about all the creators and all the people that you could potentially align with artistically, but also give yourself time to find other ways of bringing the world into your art, so that you can be a continually proactive and inspired creator. Because without the ability to continue to make great music, it's very hard to have a sustainable career. That was a lot.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I just go back to, like, you guys have this amazing opportunity where there's 40 of you in a room right now who are all in the same place and like-minded, and like, music is the most amazing gift in the world. Like, it's brought me to amazing places. I've gotten to travel the world, meet people from all over the world, and I think music is like the ultimate language, and it's like ultimate unifier. And I think, again, like, you guys look out for each other, build community amongst each other, like build, like collaborate with each other. There's probably someone in the room right now that's going to be a superstar manager, a superstar agent, a superstar artist. Like, build amongst each other, and there's like a lot of power in that. And again, when I think about my career, I owe a lot of it to building community with really early on in my career with my friends and colleagues, and kind of all coming up together. And I think that's enormously important. So I would look out for each other. If there's one of you that's an amazing producer, go produce for the rest of, go produce songs and tracks for everyone. If there's someone that mastered how to use Ableton, cool. Like, you're all of a sudden you're going to produce all the tracks. If there's someone that's an amazing vocal editor, cool, help edit everyone's vocals. If there's one of you that's so great with lyrics, like, help everyone else craft their lyric game. Like, look out for each other, collaborate with each other. Like, it's an amazing opportunity you have to have a room full of like-minded people. Yeah, music's a really amazing gift. It's changed my life, and it's changed Lee's life, and it's changed a lot of people's lives in incredible ways. So it's sacred, and definitely protect that energy.
So well said. So true.
Well,
We
thank you
We
both.
have
Oh,
jobs
sorry.
because of you guys. We have, on the business side, like, we get to do what we do, and the love of this, because of the art that you guys make. So continue to make great art.
Yes. Well, thank you both, Brandon and Lee. This was a great conversation. I know everyone is super thankful. So let's give our guests a round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks for being
Thank you so much for having us. This is honestly so much fun. Like, I think I speak for Lee too. Like, this is a blast. It's such a fun opportunity, and it's so cool to talk to someone on the other side of the world about music. It's really cool. So please, if you have more questions, like, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here. Always happy to help. And I'm just so excited for all of you guys, and you have such an awesome opportunity. So very excited to hear music and see what everyone does.
Very excited to
Chicken
hear
fingers.
where you guys
Chicken
go from
fingers.
here. Amazing opportunity. And the energy in the room, the virtual room, in the classroom, and on Zoom, you guys were a wonderful, exciting and enthusiastic group, and that means great music is going to come from this. So really
Amazing.
wonderful to meet everybody, and thank you for listening.
Last parting gift from you, Lee. Brandon's chicken fingers. What are you?
Okay, I go for ice cream. You mentioned that too. Tell me the good ice cream place in anywhere, and I'm there. And yeah, you've hit my heart really hard.
All right. Thank you both again so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Of course.
You too,
Of course.
Brandon. Great to see you.
So good to see you. I'll see everyone soon. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Thank you. And for my Zoom people, give me 1 second. I'm going to switch over to my other headsets. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Okay, I'm record label executive in IT tech, MuSHEqa. Okay, so that was a great conversation. So much wisdom was shared. Any instant reflections, any instant thoughts? Anyone want to share? Yeah, anyone who hasn't spoken, let's hear from you.
No, but I want to take an opinion about something. It's like a question for everyone, not from someone specifically, because I want like more of a lot of thoughts about it. So, speaking about launching our music and stuff, if you think there is someone who already has an existence.
We lost him. Right when we
I have a question. Are we going to finish at 8 or we're gonna stay a little bit later?
I think finish at 8, but that's I guess up to the people in the classroom. The plan is to finish at 8. I think she's just wrapping up now.
We can wrap up here if
I'm just gonna text her really quickly. Power went out again.
actually the Zoom experience is much more stable. I feel like
I know.
everyone should go virtually.
I know they hardwired the internet today. I know, so the connection was better,
But
and
the power went off.
and then the power.
Yeah, I hope it's gonna work out for them. But I thought that being in person was going to be much better, but I feel like it's more stable to be there virtually. I feel like it has pros and cons on each side, so actually everyone is benefiting somehow. Yeah. But actually it was a great session. I feel like it gave us hope.
Good. Good. I know Brandon and Lee were actually only supposed to be speaking for an hour, so they stayed over, which is so kind of them. And if you guys had any additional questions for them, we're going to put them all in an email and then they can get back to us virtually. But so nice of them to join. They were such great speakers.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and they work with my favorite artists, so that was fascinating actually. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, super great people.
Thank you so much, guys, for making this happen. And looking forward to the rest of the sessions. These are actually incredible surprises. Like, I don't think it was mentioned anywhere who are the guest speakers or what's going to happen, but the information, it's very beautiful surprises, and they're nourishing us in every positive way possible, and realistically too. Like, it's not just a pink world. They're very honest, all of them very honest about what works, what doesn't, what can they say, what's there and what's not, and that is very valuable. So thanks again.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys are getting something out of it. Nikisha has actually done a really awesome job with the music business guest speakers.
Yeah.
Everyone's been super nice, and I'm so glad you're enjoying it. That was the first
I
two.
have a question for y'all. Like, I know y'all.
Nikisha, we can see you, but we can't hear you if you can hear us.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hannah. I have a question regarding yesterday's session. Is it going to be uploaded somewhere?
Yeah, we're getting the video recordings actually after this session. So I did upload the Zoom recording to the drive, but if you guys want something more professional.
Yeah. So for yesterday, is it uploaded? Is it in which drive?
On the Google Drive, sent in the welcome email.
Okay, I'll look for it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then we don't have the professional video audio yet. We're getting that after this session, which then I will cut up, edit, and put on our YouTube and send that link out.
Also, there was a worksheet and the homework. So, which one should be submitted?
Yeah, okay, so let me respond to Nikita really quick. So the worksheet in the oh wait, can they hear us, Nikisha? No, she's texting. Okay. The worksheets and the in-class activities we're supposed to get to during the class, but we end up, like the past 2 days, we had some really great guest speakers and they went over time. So we didn't get
Yeah.
them. So you guys are welcome to complete those. They're really just meant to guide the curriculum and like help you think about your artist projects, their thought exercises, brainstorms. They're supposed to support the lesson. They're not mandatory if we don't get to them during the class. The only thing that is mandatory is the homework, and it's usually just one sheet, and it's asking about some of the key takeaways from the class. And again, it's meant to guide your own artist projects. So the homework is mandatory, the worksheets and the in-class activities aren't if we don't get to them during the class. That being said, you're welcome to upload them and we can still give you feedback on it and help you through it.
Perfect. Thank you.
But I think that's it. I know the power went out and they're wrapping up in person. So thank you guys so much for joining these past 2 days. So great to see your faces. Great audience members, awesome questions. And we have another class on Wednesday that'll be just virtual. So if you guys have any questions.
Hannah,
Yeah.
yeah, I have just a question. I just need a confirmation. For the homework, we need to submit it before Friday, right?
Right. So it's 1 week from the class date. So yesterday's homework will be due before Friday next week. Today
Mhm.
will be due before Saturday next week.
Saturday week. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
right. And so if you have homework on Wednesday, it'll be due the next Wednesday.
Yeah, okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.